and apologize because I have not been active for 2 days. I have not been feeling well, but I'm fully back now. And we're seeing a flash crash for XRP. If you hold XRP, you're about to be shocked. Let's get right into the video. I'm fully back with regular uploads.
Smash that like. A shock with what I'm about to share with you in today's video, and I'm going to show you guys some really cool data that I've never really shown on any of my videos previously, including XRP longs versus shorts, the liquidation heat map, and what.
That's what I told you guys. Don't be too afraid because exactly as I predicted, September 1st is when we saw these different crashes.
What that is likely to mean for the price of XRP very soon, based off of a number of different historical examples. This is some really awesome information. Now, before we get into the heat map and the liquidations and XRP, I do want to talk about something really important that will be also affecting XRP's price in the midterm. This is not going to be immediate. This is not going to happen overnight, but over the next 3 months, this will play a massive role.
I feel like September is the moment. Like I was calling for 2026 bear market, and I want to see what happens with that. I'm still kind of worried in what situation we end up in. Like 2026, it could go either way. Of course, I still feel like the 2025 is going to be very bullish for XRP. I'm not too worried about a small crash, but 2026 is what really gets me worried, right? With this goods exports, maybe are the companies preparing for another flash crash and XRP is going to suffer and be sold off? Like,
in a lot of my videos, I've been talking about how the US, Europe, Canada, many different economies are struggling immensely right now. And while Canada most recently just announced a deficit which surged by $19.84 billion to a record $21 billion in Q2 of 2025. Now, this data was just released, and this is also following not so great data from the rest of the world as well. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you guys is because whenever we see this happen, massive deficits, huge amounts of government spending, things not looking too.
Now, this is one indicator, but again, you got to look at multiple indicators. The reason people are buying XRP is because we are in a very, very good note right now for XRP itself. The markets are still looking incredible no matter what. We're still at the lowest point of time in terms of basically crypto. You know, everyone is buying crypto. So that's the real thing here. Goods export dropped by 13% is bad to their lowest since 2021. I understand. But there's so many other positive factors we didn't see in 2011.
Great. Well, it always results in the basic same thing. And what is that? Well, that is the government starting to put forward stimulus, printing more money. And when we look at the M2 charts, you can see, well, we're hitting all-time highs in terms of M2, but we're also seeing a really strange correlation between assets such as stocks and crypto and M2 data as well. What we're essentially seeing is that both M2 and stocks are, of course, extremely correlated in their rise up to the top.
They're probably collecting money to buy into the next stock market.
And it's kind of scary if we're going to continue this route if you're not in any investable asset, because you're going to be missing out on what potentially could be life-changing for many people around the world. I mean, number one, if you're holding fiat currency and just holding that in savings, you're missing out on the roller coaster ride that will happen here, and you're also going to be having your currency massively devalued. But this is undeniable, right? Looking at how M2 and all equity markets are linked together. I mean, just look at the correlation here. It is absolutely insane. This is facts that you cannot deny. This applies to XRP, Bitcoin, the S&P 500, you name it. And
so NASDAQ is nearly twice as large as the liquid money in the market. Isn't like the banks are collecting, as soon as the banks start collecting money, that's when I would be afraid. Because it actually means when the banks start collecting money, is it to buy into the market itself. But right now, the M2 money supply, which is a bit delayed as well, is actually in a positive note, which means because we already saw this growing in a few months, which I'm predicting to be October, XRP is going to go up. according to my research.
So when we get information like this, that Canada,
Welcome,
the US,
everyone.
Europe, China, you name it, they're all going to be printing more money, I think the choice becomes more and more clear. Now that I've mentioned all that, I do want to talk about something that is extremely important.
This is just one bad indicator, and we've been seeing like 18 positive indicators since XRP grew.
That is the cryptocurrency longs versus shorts on the market. How much volume we're seeing in both directions, because this tells us exactly what retail traders are doing. Okay,
So again, not just retail traders, but whales are still bullish, and as long as whales are bullish, I'm still in.
You the economic data. Now I want to show you what retail's doing, because it's actually completely different, because most retail traders don't actually follow the data. They don't follow the facts. They follow their emotions. And this is a big reason as to why many retail traders get absolutely decimated in these markets. And I'll show you guys why in just a second. But
now the most important factor is there's still a lot of traders who trade based on data, but you shouldn't trade based on news. Why? Because a lot of this news that we get for XRP, it's already priced in, and it makes people who are fearful sell. That's exactly what we're seeing. You know, news that comes out like this is already priced in. The big whales know this isn't a big indicator. If we're going to get some breaking news, some people are going to know way before others.
When you look across all of the XRP long/short ratio chart, especially in more recent times, like any time in the last 24 hours or the last 7 days, what you'll see is there's actually more more shorts than longs, which basically means that more people are bearish on the market versus bullish on the market. And this applies on the 24-hour, 7-day time frame. You can look at this across all different exchanges. We look at Binance. There's more shorts.
So look, XRP 50% short and 50% long. It's because September could go either way, but historically September did go down. So September was a place down for XRP, but October historically was a time and a place where XRP was heavily up.
We look at OKX, more shorts. In very rare situations are there more longs. The general trend across the entire market with all of the largest exchanges is more shorts than longs by a decent amount. We're talking about billions of dollars here. That's no small amount, especially when we're talking about high numbers of leverage, because if there's, let's just say $10 billion or $1 billion or $5 billion more shorts versus longs in the market, you can bet your bottom dollar that top institutional investors are looking at this data and they're planning a way to liquidate those guys so that they can transfer that.
So $2.7 for XRP now right now. Whales are still buying, but I feel like it's going to get a very heavy September, just as I predicted correctly, maybe even 30% down. And I'm telling you this not to cause FUD, but, to be prepared that this is very normal, that, XRP could go 30% down and then back up, rally. Again, this is not financial advice. This is my opinion. But it does seem at this point that it's following the exact lines I told you guys on this channel.
That money over to them. And so this brings me to the liquidation heat map, which I think is crucial. Right now we're looking at the liquidation heat map for XRP. And the very interesting thing that we're noticing here is that there are a ton of liquidations up at these levels. Most notably, there are hundreds of millions of dollars of liquidations from 287.2 all the way up to 292. Now, why is that? Despite there being a near 50-50 distribution, I mean, obviously there's a little bit more shorts than longs. Why are there so many more liquidations for the short guys up here?
Now, this is where the whales make money, guys. The whales are making money, and they're not telling you why.
Here. Because, of course, if we hit these numbers, these guys who are shorting will be liquidated at these numbers, if you guys didn't know. And these are the longs that'll be liquidated down here. I mean, there are some, but not nearly as much as the shorts. Why is that? Why is that? Well, it's because retail traders also have a tendency to use much higher leverage than institutions. Because, frankly speaking, they're trying to make very quick money with very little capital. So the easiest way to do that is to borrow at, crazy leverages like 50x, 20x, 10x leverage, right? And institutions don't do that. Institutions just have billions and billions of dollars of capital. So they'll look at these charts, they'll say, wow, like we can liquidate people all the way up here to 292. Let's just pump the price up there to 292.
I think September is the month for the whales, especially crypto being so small, XRP being so small. They know there is money to be made. That's why we make videos like these, to tell you and explain, guys, why exactly XRP has dipped.
Let's liquidate these guys, and then you'll see a massive wick like what we saw, you know, back here, for example, where we wicked up very largely and they liquidated a bunch of people at that level. And that's great. That's it. You know, they liquidate those guys, they make their money, they might sell the top after the liquidations happen. Institutions are happy. The people that invest into those institutions are happy.
They want XRP to go down because that's the way they make money. That's the way the big whales make money. If XRP does not go down right now, or if the price doesn't move, they do not make a dime.
Because they just made it.
So if they push it for $2.5 or $2 or whatever it is, that's how they make literally their own income.
Pretty solid return. And so this is what I think is likely and increasingly likely to happen here. I do think that a lot of these short sellers with high leverage are going to get wrecked. You know, you also see a very similar story happening right now on Bitcoin, on Ethereum. For some reason, there's a lot more shorts than longs, especially the higher leverage. And so, yeah, it is possible that we move a little bit down from here, but you can see we've been trading sideways. And as we all know, weekends are slow for crypto. Next week, I think we're going to heat up big time and things are going to get absolutely insane. And so I want to invite all of you guys who are lucky enough to be.
So yeah, you guys have a pretty clear idea what's happening right now in September. The whales are still trading. The whales are not emotional right now, but they believe the prices are going to be having a massive change. But this changes nothing for XRP. It's just going to keep building while these whales will make money off other, well, tinier whales. So you guys probably understand now exactly what's going on. This one bad info that we had doesn't invalidate all of the good news that we had the past month. So now XRP Mastermind predicts $1,000
We got some
XRP
updated information about the
$1,000. I mean, $1,000 is crazy, bro. You know, $1,000 for XRP means a lot of us here will be multimillionaires. Down 2.5K, it's not that bad. Can be worse.
reviews. The
Can be down, you know, not me, but some whales are down 500K. That's completely normal for September. Is that, you know, now people are calling for $1,000 XRP.
Dollar price thesis. Was it based on the Swift model starting to shift, the growth of the XRP ledger, or potentially the growth of
Smash that
stablecoin,
like
or kind of a
button.
combination of all?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question, and a lot of people asked for the sort of more detailed explanation, which I'm currently, you know, working on sort of putting out. But I think, you know, for the purpose of this, you know, at a high level at least, it's a combination of all of them. Obviously, Swift is a big component, but then a lot of it is actually driven by the.
So yeah, they're calling for $1,000 with the Swift partnership. I feel like the Swift partnership is the key to $100 or $50, but not $1,000. $1,000 literally means, like, if you have 10 XRP right now, which is $30, you're gonna have tons of money. Like, you're gonna have $10,000. That kind of, you know, doesn't really add up, right? So key dates in September is, we will see. We'll see if there's any more key dates in September. I'll keep you guys updated on that as well.
Use cases that we're actually seeing on the ground, in person, in real life, all of these incredible projects that are coming out and actually utilizing the XRP ledger in different ways. Obviously, DeFi and finance are a huge, you know, use case, but then also, like I was talking about before, you know, billions and billions are transferred internationally from, you know, people in the US to people abroad, both in terms of business, remittances, but then also in terms of charity and all sorts of use cases. And ultimately, you know, when those applications really start to get used on an institutional level, that's really where you start to see not only more activity on the XRP ledger, obviously a huge, you know, multiple times explosion, but also you start to see people focus more in terms of just, you know, retail, looking at the.
Now, these are all key components, but the issue here, people are calling, you know, we have a saying in our country, don't count your eggs before they hatch, right? And he's already calling for 1,000 before we even reach $30. And yeah, retail is cool, institutional development is cool, but we really need banks to push that, and that might take up to 2 years, might take up to 5 years before they fully go live and take the tools. I feel like XRP is going to have a full release date in 2026, but that is only my speculation, right?
Sure.
Underlying
Yeah.
it. You know, that's why companies like Nvidia, for example, have seen, you know, 1,000-fold increases in the price, is because, you know, retail start to come and they start to see, oh, okay, you know, AI is really taking off now. What's the best way I can actually invest in that? It's through, you know, the products that Nvidia makes. And so ultimately, I think, you know, that's going to be a really interesting part of the whole story, is when, you know, those sort of 93% of people, obviously, you know, less accounting people who don't have access to the internet, etc. But, you know, that huge proportion of people who don't currently own crypto come into the space and, you know, figure out that XRP exists.
Yeah,
So
well,
I think
and
Also, this type of hype, you know, that we saw in 2021, I don't think retail is going to be that big. I think institutions are going to be the 10 times bigger on the chart.
Really quickly, in the beginning, he asked him, you know, because he gave a price prediction of $1,000 per XRP by 2030. So when he gave that prediction, I was thinking in the back of my head, like, man, this guy's a developer. He's been in the space. He sounds really intelligent. One of these guys is like summa cum laude, you know, brilliant person, right? I think they both are really smart people. But like, I was wondering, like, what is backing up that $1,000 prediction, right? What is the model he is using to get to that number? Was it just something that he threw out there for views and clicks?
Exactly.
And it sounds like he said that he's putting it together. You know, maybe I'm just being a little snooty here, but like, wouldn't you have this already together? Like, if you're going out on a, you know, a TV, you know, you're an interview, you're promoting your company here in front of the whole world, have the information ready, right? Because like, we are waiting for how you got to this $1,000. And
The issue is he's calling for $1,000 for the same, he said, like retail investors. These are the same indicators to $15, but he's calling for $1,000. This is what I don't understand. $15 XRP, believable. I totally get it. $1,000, we're gonna need some, you know, back-end deals, some details, you know. I'm open-minded, but $1,000 is just crazy.
what needs to happen in order to do this? Anyways, let's keep going.
you've got the
huge pressure upwards on the price.
exactly. You got the obviously the ETFs, but I think also the professional money managers will start to see it.
Exactly.
Digital assets in general, and it
Yeah, and
changes
it'll really benefit.
outlook.
Yeah, it'll really benefit, you know, the top 10, I think, you know, and
Yeah.
obviously the top 5, you know, we'll see the biggest increases, you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, etc. But then also, you know, the fund managers don't often like to delve really far down, you know, and take more speculative bets. So the ones with the most volume, the tokens, you know, that look the most attractive to them will be naturally the ones on the top of that coin market cap list, so to speak.
Maybe I'm just being a little picky, but you know, if you're gonna come out and you're gonna try to be like one of the leader in the space, and you're developing this big project, and you know you have millions of people looking at you, like let's have some of that data ready so we can like figure out, you know, at least when Jake gives his price prediction, he says this, and this needs to happen, right? You're like, okay, I can understand that.
And Jake, even, you know, his predictions is basically if, for example, oil crash and it gets replaced with XRP or stuff like that, that's how XRP could reach $700. Or if we see a huge recession and then being rebuilt, the banking crashes being rebuilt on the XRP system. Again, this is like in theory possible. I don't think that's ever going to happen. That's why it's, you know, so impossible to see 700 XRP. But just seeing the key indicators is not, you know, enough to call me out and really get me interested in how this will change everything. I'm really interested what Ripple has to say, you know, for their prices once 2026 kicks in, because they are having some massive developments just in the past few days.
Right? I get that. I get where you're coming from with these prices because you just explained it. I need some explanation from my man here. All right, here's another clip. The Kwok brothers just dropped a major alpha on Paul's podcast. Let's listen.
So for sure. I just showed Canary Capital announcing their XRP Solana ADA. This was like their American-made crypto thing. We had Steven on last week. Great conversation. But Steven made a very big statement. And his statement was he believed that XRP, their ETF, would be the biggest ETF yet in all of crypto. Dom, I'll start with you. Do you agree with that in terms of inflows? This is just in reference to inflows.
Yeah.
Now that is huge because what we saw, you know, the inflows for Bitcoin and Ethereum was during the bear market. And that's what really boosted Bitcoin. That's what I could believe in. And already XRP having so much trading volume right now from Korea. If we can get BlackRock on board, if we can get BlackRock to list the ETF, that's the 90% of volume, guys. That's where the biggest inflow part is going to be, because BlackRock listed on Ethereum and Bitcoin.
I mean, I definitely would agree with that. I think, even if you just look at the XRP holder base, it's so big. And, I think XRP volumes, some of the highest on Coinbase, and, the trading volumes are really the highest on many of the different exchanges, or amongst, at least the top three after Bitcoin. And I think even just after Bitcoin, actually, in the most recent Coinbase report. But, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP, those are the definitely the most liquid ones and most traded names. And I think, people who don't hold crypto and who don't sort of have...
All right, maybe these people are growing on me, but hold on. So the claim was the Canary Capital CEO said that the XRP ETF that they will get approved here, the spot ETF, will be the biggest that their companies has ever done. So my mind was like, what other ETFs have they launched?
But that's Canary Capital, right? Canary Capital wasn't that big from my understanding. I could be totally wrong. They're just saying that it was the most requested one, which I definitely think it was most requested than maybe Ethereum. But how much of this inflows are we getting? Are we getting in billions, or is it only going to be in millions? That changes the price from $4 to $15.
And so Canary Trump Coin ETF, Canary Staked Injective ETF. Oh, okay. So they didn't file a
Just
Bitcoin
markets
or
being
Ethereum.
bad.
This is why they're saying that this is going to be the biggest ETF that they've launched. I get it, right?
Yeah, because they haven't launched anything. Like, they launched XRP. They wanted to launch all of these. So I totally understand why XRP is going to be biggest, because they haven't really launched Bitcoin or other coins.
You don't have Bitcoin, you don't have Ethereum. Yeah, of course XRP is going to beat out Injective and Trump Coin ETF. What are you doing? Oh, sorry. I was expecting to see like a Solana or, something. I wasn't expecting to see this. So that is interesting. Okay, cool, man. Whatever. Right on. 7 days, US markets become truly global. What does this mean? Ondo, what you talk?
Yeah, so Ondo is very connected to Ripple, guys. If you don't know, they're building for the BlackRock ecosystem, but BlackRock is paying them through the Ledger ecosystem, or XRP Ledger. So let that sink in. Ondo, while it's competitor to XRP, they are working together in some ways from what I have heard, but these are only rumors.
About here. I got it. In 7 days, on September 3rd, 2025, Ondo Finance will launch its own global markets platform, enabling access outside of the US to tokenize US stocks, ETFs, and bonds via blockchain, allowing 24/7 trading, fractional ownership, and non-US investors. Ondo's global reach and markets. Ondo's global reach is tokenization platform, bringing thousands of US listed securities, whether stocks, ETFs, and bonds, on chain for worldwide access, except US residents. Ooh, that sucks. I'd imagine they're going to need regulation in order to do this, probably, right? Because they're going to be offering all kinds of different products, and until you have regulation and
I feel like, yeah, you can't even get listed these coins right now. Otherwise, like, other institutions would do it. That's why XRP couldn't be listed, because of the lawsuit. It couldn't even be on the exchanges.
What's what? They can't really do it to US. The platform offers instant minting and redemption of tokenized securities using stablecoins, are free, and tokens are freely transferable using DeFi with no platform lock-in. So this is really unique, right? An example here of what I'm thinking how this is, when you buy a treasury bill, right? Whether you 6 months or a year, whatever the length is, you're locking that money up, you're giving that money to the government. They give you this bond and they pay, a dividend on the bond. Once the bond expires, you get your money back plus the interest that you earned. Being able to do this through like money market funds, you're going to be able to get an even more higher percent interest, and you're going to be able to make this 24/7 tradable. So let's say that you are halfway through and you needed to get some of that money back. Something happened in your life, or you just want to invest in something else. You're going to be able to take that actual token and trade it real time, 24/7, 365. You don't have to wait for markets to be open or closed. Now you can do some of this stuff with the traditional systems, but it needs to be Monday through Friday, 9 to 3 o'clock. And anyways, 24/7, 365 accessibility. Non-US investors can gain exposure and trade US securities anytime, overcoming national market hours and barriers. Like, this is the biggest problem. Say you live in England, right? Or Europe. By the time you are waking up, American markets are closed, right? By the time you're going to sleep, they're just opening. So sometimes people stay up all night to trade these markets. This will allow them to get access to these markets anytime, anywhere.
This is what also real world assets will save. ETFs, I don't think You can buy US ETFs all around the world. Also applies on regulations. But again, guys, there's a Canadian ETF for XRP. There's a US ETF for XRP. There's a ton of ETFs. It's not just, one type of XRP. It is around the world. And with more regulation, which I've been calling for the Crypto Clarity Act, it's really pushing XRP prices toward. XRP prices were locked to $5, bro, for a very simple reason. XRP had ongoing lawsuits. It really didn't even have a plan until it was safe from this lawsuit. Now the price plan, the prices become much, much higher, $15, $20. People would call you crazy maybe a few years ago when XRP couldn't even push past $1 because of all the lawsuits, all the problems it had, and all the risk with regulation.
You don't have to, some of these people, these traders can actually start sleeping in maybe. Fractional ownership investors can buy portions of equities or ETFs, democratizing access to high value US assets. So, if you are in a country and it's difficult for you to save in the currency of that country due to inflation or whatever the reason is, right? You want to start investing in something that you feel is more secure. So you're looking at US stocks and bonds and these types of things. If you can't afford an entire stock of, let's say, Tesla stock or Nvidia stock, you could buy a fractional share of a quarter of a share or half a share. This is really going to open up all kinds.
Now, this is what I don't get with real world assets. Ripple is trying to develop real world assets, but can't you buy a fraction of something? You can buy a fraction of XRP, you can buy a fraction of a share. They're talking about real estate. You can buy a fraction of a real estate, fraction of a gold, fraction of a furniture. This is where it really makes it powerful to put everything on the digital web. Also because everything is going to be trackable. You can see who sold it, who bought it. Same for land. You can buy a fraction of land with XRP on the XRP Ledger, potentially 5 years into the future.
Of access and level the playing field across the world for everybody, which I think is going to be extremely beneficial. And you notice how crypto is really starting to serve the US markets here. I mean, obviously they have to wait for regulation to come in here, but they're opening the rest of the
the US market has 37 trillion debt or even 40 trillion. Of course, they're going to try to find some awesome technology out that way. They're going to look at different paths, how to make money for the US government. And the first one that comes to mind is AI and XRP, guys.
World to US markets 24/7, 365. And if you look at any major stablecoin in the crypto market, 99% of stablecoins in the crypto market are US dollar backed. So am I crazy to say that crypto is kind of saving the US dollar right now? And the US needs crypto more than the rest of the world does? It kind of feels like that in my heart.
I mean, other countries were working with XRP before they could work, in the US anyway. So other countries need XRP just as much as US. Yeah, US is going to benefit a lot from it, but it depends how much they want to use it. If they don't want to use it, then it's kind of useless for them. But yeah, other countries, like more developing countries, I feel like they need XRP way more than the US dollar. The US dollar is still one of the strongest in the world.
A soul? But you let me know if I'm a little off on that. Crypto Eerie says researchers waiting to do due diligence on leak logos which choose the XRP Ledger for their digital strategy. Please do so in Chinese. Here is your starter. Licensed money transmitters in BIS project with Standard Charter, added 244 core enterprise and financial institution clients to its supply chain solutions. Total number of clients, 1,352, a 22% increase compared to 2024. The company has helped 380,000 small to medium-sized enterprises access digital inclusive fintech services. August 26, RMB 203.6 billion total revenue. Productivity lays out global supply chain applications for scenarios based on compliant stablecoins, and she provided the links. Crypto Eerie.
It's always good there's something happening behind the scenes that doesn't even make it to the XRP news.
Always does a stellar job, and glad to have her. Now, I don't know who this person is. Big Sean, Crypto Bitlord posted this.
So Big Sean, if you don't know who is, he's a rapper. And the XRP brand is supreme. Every single person knows what XRP. It is becoming more known than Bitcoin at this point. At least more talk than Bitcoin on social media. So I definitely believe it's going to be it hit mainstream already. If you don't believe me, just check the statistics. XRP trending every single week. It is the coin that everybody's talking about, even rappers, not just banks, not just institutions. It is becoming the main thing. I don't want to say famous brands, but you know what was popular like all other years.
Sean is telling people to buy crypto, mentions, well, here, I'll just let
and if it is one time that I'm gonna say this, crypto, and if it is one time that I'm gonna say this is not, you're not too late. Invest in crypto right now, tonight if you can. Like, do that shit tonight. You're gonna get a return from it. You know, Bitcoin is a good one. Ethereum. What's the other one you said? Ripple. Invest in that shit. I'm telling y'all right now, this is a quick flip. Do it tonight. It's about to go. You know.
It's a quick flip. Some of us are here for the long term, but I get the quick flip.
10K, XRP to 10K. People are calling for 10K. Again, top 3 cryptos. That's what they're calling for.
The interesting part of here is I'd imagine this is probably the younger.
Guys, look what happened like 4 years ago. Bitcoin and Ethereum are now going to be forever in the crypto space. So is XRP. A lot of these coins might be gone. September, yeah, it's a pretty bad month for September. But, you know, when you look at long term, it's not looking that bad at all.
Generation likes this person's music or whatever they are doing, but you don't hear all of these artists saying, you know, go buy stocks, right? That's what you should do with your time. Yeah. People are like, go buy crypto, and more young people are like, yeah, crypto, crypto makes sense to me.
I feel like a lot of people are looking for easy money, and those are going to get burned. They're going to say, oh, XRP only did a 100x in 2 months or 3 months. You got to be realistic, right? And the thing is, stocks are really slow gains while crypto are much more risky. So you got to understand, September is going to be potentially, in my honest opinion, a very bad month. I feel like XRP is going to go down 30%. And I'm not too scared. October, you know, if October is down, then I'm going to be scared.
Can connect with it. I can understand it. I've been on an iPhone since I was 1 year old, right?
And of course, when the market drops so much, you have to kind of, you know, let people cash out and let new ones come in, right? That's what we always see with the markets. When the cryptos go really up, it also has to go down a bit. And September really seems to be that month where cryptos went up in August, July, June. XRP kept going up, and now 1 month it's going to have a break.
Know this stuff. This is going to be beneficial for.
So November 22nd, I hope November 22nd is the big month, but we have a Crypto Clarity Act incoming as well.
Younger generations to build wealth extremely quickly over the next 5 or 10 years. I wish I would have known about crypto 10 or 12 years ago. I'd probably be a billionaire by now, buying Bitcoin at stupid prices, and then Ethereum, and then of course XRP. But you know, we get in when we get in, and that's when we got to catch up, learn as much as we can, and grow as quickly as possible. Now, Armando Pantoja has this clip here talking about a 10,000 XRP, saying most people get it flipped with market cap. All good. Let's listen to what he has to say.
I think XRP will hit $10,000 one day. People always ask that, and it potentially can. And people always come back and say the market cap argument. The market cap is not a true representation because money flows into crypto a lot differently. The market cap is not a representation of money flowing into crypto. It's only a representation of what it's worth. So a lot less money has to flow into XRP to push the price up. A few billion over a few weeks, it will push it over $10, $15. Wow, just from a few billion? Yeah, over a shorter period of time. I really believe in XRP because
So that's the thing. The ETFs, they could really push the prices up, especially once we get those listings in October. You know, and I'm really counting on those ETF listings. But again, we need to have everyone in. I'm calling in, you know, the biggest ETFs have to publish it, not just the small ones, because they're going to have those customers that were buying Ethereum and Bitcoin before. They're going to buy also XRP. They will want to hold a portfolio, especially corporations after the Crypto Clarity Act.
The government artificially kept it down for years. That's the reason why we've seen a rapid growth in XRP since the Trump administration, because some of those artificial restrictions are being lifted off of XRP. Right. So it's still a lot of room to grow, and there's still a lot of potential going forward with XRP. Whenever something's been held back, we see the growth. It's going to happen regardless, but it happens rapidly over a short period of time.
Interesting.
I feel like XRP corrected itself, basically the price after the lawsuit.
Remember, anytime you have a market cap multiplier, it isn't indefinite, right? It isn't all the time. Once you get to a certain level, that market cap multiplier won't be 100 or 500x. It'll be 50x, then it'll be 25x, then it'll be 10x, then it'll be 5x, right? It'll slowly get withered down. You look at Bitcoin right now, and the market cap multiplier for Bitcoin is only, I think, 5 to 10 at this point, depending on the day and the inflows and outflows. So it's not, you know, still going to take a whole lot of money to get to a $10,000 XRP, and XRP would have to represent.
So the Clarity Act just passed the House. If I remember correctly, it's going to be around October. Need to double check on this one exactly. It's coming. They might announce it. But yeah, I will keep you guys updated because the core version to pass the Senate is what really we are waiting for crypto.
A lot of the world's value. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see it, but to get there, we are talking about a lot of bad things happening to the world and everybody moving to XRP and using Ripple solutions to...
I feel like it's kind of normal for the markets to crash. Wasn't there just a huge XRP leak? We gotta talk about this, guys. Another XRP leaker just exposed everything, and every time we get news like this, it sometimes means something. Sometimes it's very big news that a lot of people didn't know or didn't see, and that's why I love watching like this type of content, because you know what you're there building with Trump, BlackRock, and JP Morgan on XRPL will blow your mind. I mean, they're obviously building a future on it, but nobody knows. That's what we're seeing like here, CEO Brad Garlinghouse.
Now they're building with Trump, and now they're building with Trump, BlackRock, and JP Morgan on the XRP Ledger. This will blow your mind. Remember, this part very speculative. Suddenly, all of their strange moves makes perfect sense. Let's get into the thread. An ex-banker under the alias Lord Belgrave claimed to have leaked one of the NDAs with UBS. Other than details that had already come to light, there's a shocking detail, a reference to a biometric identity mapping, and saying that there's something big. It's this signal.
That's a rumor we've been seeing, that they're going to be using your DNA on the XRP ledger, so you basically can log in with your own DNA, which is a very, very deep rumor because BlackRock is building some sort of patent, if I understood correctly. But who knows? Like, it could be just in a testing phase. BlackRock probably worked on a lot of stuff they never released, and they have infinite money to develop this type of stuff as well.
Something big aligning with digital identity and global settlement systems, and they're kind of tweaking out the post here. Going a deep further, Brad Garlinghouse warned in interviews about governments using technology to control our identity. At the time, most of this thought that he was just talking about CBDCs, but Ripple had quietly been building something entirely different related to digital IDs and payments. Let me play.
Now, that's something I covered in my last video, is that they are in some way like BlackRock and Ripple working together. BlackRock, $1 trillion company, on the future of digitalizing everything, and it kind of makes sense, but I feel like they're in very early stages building on that chain. Who else can support it but Ripple? This could be big, but again, we don't know if it's gonna go mainstream or if it's just gonna be an experimental project. So if you guys didn't know, XRP and Ripple is building a lot more than just their own blockchain. They're building 10 times more of the things we don't know about. And some of these things have been revealed to us.
Who owns your identity?
Yeah, it's not me, unfortunately.
It's not you. What's interesting, though, the government owns your identity. If you don't have a passport or a birth certificate or a driver's license, whatever, I don't know each country's dynamic, but like if you don't have those things, you are not who you say you are. The government owns your identity. Now, we may not like that, but I just view that as that's just a truism. And you know, one of the things Ripple has tried to do is we're pragmatic. Even though my philosophical view on something may be over here, to build a business and to drive the success of the XRP ecosystem, sometimes you just have to be pragmatic about the world. Even though I love the idea of blockchain-based identity as a utility for blockchains, you have to get who owns your identity.
Okay,
so he's kind of teasing Brad Garlinghouse that he's going to be building this secret system, or well, a public system. This could be just a quote, and people really looked into this, and yes, they are building on their own chain.
Go a bit deeper here. So we got the Brad Garlinghouse post here. Then we go, meanwhile, XRP is quietly embedding itself in healthcare payments. Logistics Health had announced XRP Ledger-based payment systems for 6,500 US pharmacies. Instant payments plus compliance plus the global standard. This isn't just finance, it's a healthcare data pipelines. And so here is that information. We are seeing more and more companies figuring out.
And that's something I said last time. It's very obvious that Ripple is not only going to be working with banks, it's going to go worldwide, because that's where the money is, right? That's where the revenue for the company is.
How they can use digital assets like XRP in their infrastructure to save time, money, and lower the costs of some of these drugs. JP Morgan has already admitted it, that digital identities are the foundation of Web3. The World Economic Forum took it further. Their blockchain toolkit literally lays out the framework: digital IDs, compliance and tracking, healthcare, and supply chains. So here's some of that information. If you're interested in reading it, please, it's on the screen. I'm not going to get into it in too much detail here. World Economic Forum, JP Morgan, but building trusted digital identities, identifying actors and defining roles, making technology decisions, future-proof your digital identity system, defining and securing identity data, process and governance, and decentralized and identity consideration.
I mean, that's, if something is going to be built like that, of course it's going to be built on the XRP ledger where it can all be processed, especially worldwide. They probably need another like 10, 20 years to go worldwide, but this is a good start.
Durations. It also shows this picture of Brad Garlinghouse with a slew of central bankers. And don't forget Ripple's seat at the real table. Here's Brad Garlinghouse standing with Christine Lagarde, who is currently at the IMF during this photo. Now she is the head of the European Central Bank, IMF officials, SWIFT, Monetary Authority of Singapore, and even Ripple alumni working inside of the IMF, who is Jess Chang right here. So here's Brad. Here's Ross Leckow. You remember this guy. Brad's on the stage with Ross. Somebody asked a question about, will the IMF be holding crypto assets in the future? Brad Garlinghouse turned to him and said, this question, you want me to take it? Remember that whole interaction? That was pretty fun. And then you have Christine Lagarde here, Monetary Authority of Singapore. And then you have people from the IMF, people from SWIFT here, right? A lot of big names. See, like, this is what we often talk about on this channel. How many crypto...
I mean, they even said they want to take over 14% of SWIFT, which is a lot of money. But I also feel like these groups, it's a lot of networking. They're very connected.
Companies, blockchain infrastructure companies that you've researched, right? You've probably been in the space a while, right? Some of you are
like BlackRock obviously knows about XRP. There's no doubt about it. They obviously know that the ETF listing, why they haven't listed it yet, is for a very clear reason that probably only a few people know, including Brad Garlinghouse. Maybe they know, maybe they're expecting it. We don't know when it happens, but it's not priced in yet, in my opinion.
Just now joining us,
ETF
but some of you have been here for
BlackRock.
years. When you take a look around at some of your favorite crypto assets, have you ever seen the founder of that particular crypto asset in a meeting like this? I don't think I can recall a company outside of Ripple that has been in more closed door meetings with the power of the financial system. It's just mind-boggling to me. And
I mean, this type of marketing, they needed to do 11 years.
This is why a lot of people believe XRP is the true standard for the world. And this is why I've kind of dedicated my life to understanding all of this. I think it's incredibly fun to go over with you. I hope you guys are getting value out of this content. And then here goes. All of this points to one thing: DNA protocol on the XRP ledger. This person saying DNA on chain. BlackRock's XDNA ETF wasn't a coincidence either. Launched on July 4th, the same day the US independence and Trump's one big beautiful bill slashing healthcare spend. So if you're not familiar with Trump's big beautiful bill, it is supposed to be getting rid of healthcare for a lot of Americans that rely on government assistance to get that healthcare.
I feel like it's a big business, like putting everything on blockchain, putting everything on XRP Ledger. That's what they're focusing on right now.
More reporting that needs to be done, and some of these people are going to lose their healthcare because of this. And this has been a very controversial bill because this did give tax cuts to the top 20% while, basically making the bottom 80% pay more, and people will lose their healthcare. So that's unfortunate, but they're saying that is connected here, which I had no idea about this. And then here's some of the connections that it was making. The bill was signed into law by President Trump on July 4th. Although the law is properly referred to as one big beautiful bill, this official title was removed from the bill during the Senate amendment process, and therefore the law officially has no short title. This has been an issue here in the United States, especially with people that are losing healthcare. Part of it too, right, is you have hospitals in rural areas, and the reason they are able to work and run is because they get money from the government to do that. And then when you cut that funding, you are cutting out those hospitals and those people that work there. And so if you live in a place where there's one hospital, 50 miles or something like that, and that hospital closes, that sucks, right? That's going to be
I mean, it's pretty clear everything will get privatized, like going private for that reason. And this is where XRP can build the future for them.
Problem for you. So you might want to just look into that as it happens. This is supposed to take place over the next, few years. So anyways, I'll leave that with you.
I feel like this will take like 5 years, but XRP with 900 employees, they're not only building the blockchain. 900 or 600 employees or whatever they have is a lot of people. A lot of people. That's the main thing, And it really gives you the opportunity to build multiple projects like the RWA they're building. I'm definitely excited what they reveal in 2026. And that's why I also developed 500 hours of my time to learn about Ripple and explain it to you guys.
Never random. They've just been quietly laying the rails for it on the XRP Ledger. Trump's one big beautiful bill slashes healthcare spending. Then came the digital health tech ecosystem. At the same time, BlackRock's XDNA was launched on July 4th, same thing. And JP Morgan kept pushing digital identity. One of the last posts here says Ripple hasn't been targeting Africa by accident. Partnerships with Chipper Cash, Onifric, and with expansions in the MENA region. Meanwhile, DNA Protocol quietly onboards labs across African nations. Coincidence? And they're highlighting a few posts here. They're highlighting Ripple's post at 30 billion in payments from RippleNet, and we're partnering with MFS Africa and ODL in Africa, our sixth continent. Also highlights DNA Protocol in Kenya down here. And this is highlighting XDNA and a few other things. XDNA Labs update in Kenya. So man, this is, I guess, all interconnected.
I mean, this is a lot to take in, but I definitely feel like Ripple would be building here. They already had some partnerships down there, didn't they? Especially like in developing countries. That's where really Ripple doing all these sorts of connections and all these sorts of partnerships really paid off.
Adoption hasn't even happened yet. And in fact, their goal is to go to the financial institutions that have all the retail customers, incorporate the blockchain technology to the financial institutions, and then retail is using the blockchain technology via the financial institution without even noticing it. What cryptocurrency is a new set of rails, a new set of financial architecture. And the average retail person doesn't know how their bank operates today and probably won't care of how their bank operates in the future. The thing they really care about is just that things work well. And what the bank wants is the bank wants fast, efficient transactions, and they want to be innovative to keep up with all the players in fintech. What Ripple is doing is upgrading the rails, upgrading the back end of the financial system through these massive institutions that have billions of customers so that everyone gets the power of blockchain technology without having to be an expert on it. I can promise you in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, no one is going to be walking around your average retail customer with a wallet with a seed phrase and paying for groceries with that. They're going to be using cryptocurrency technology. They're going to be using things like the XRP Ledger, but for them, things really won't have changed. From the front end, things will look very similar. That makes money itself flow.
So in very simple reasoning, they're doing because the banks are expensive to run, and all this transaction is going to save money when they partner up with Ripple. They're going to save a ton of money. They're going to have fast transfers. It's just a no-brainer for them, right? It makes total sense. And that's where what Ripple knows. And Ripple makes money off the banks and all these, even like finance and healthcare. These are the two big sectors where Ripple could work in.
And Ripple, in my opinion, has always had the right approach.
All right.
It needed 10 years for Ripple to get where it is today. It just like the price wasn't really following up. There was meme coin time. There was like other times. I don't feel like meme coins are going to be a big thing of 2025 anymore. They were a big thing in 2024, but I really feel like that the US backed coins were the big thing. We can see Ripple is bigger this year than Bitcoin and Ethereum combined. It's bigger this year than Bitcoin and Ethereum combined. It's all eyes. It's going mainstream. It's talked by rappers. This is the thing. It's on live TV.
Sorry about that, Luda. I don't know if somebody's in the hallway, but Luda just went bonkers. So I do apologize for the barking. It's Luda, right? She's going to do whatever she wants. I love her. RLUSD is bigger than you think. Bang! Got the little ships too here. Total stablecoin transfer volume reached 27.6 trillion in 2024, surpassing the combined transaction volume of Visa and MasterCard. And this is as well documented. For example, instead of initiating a traditional remittance payment through Western Union or MoneyGram, someone in the US can send money to a family member in the Philippines by purchasing a stablecoin. Like Ripple's RLUSD through a digital wallet or exchange, that stablecoin is then transmitted across a blockchain network directly to the recipient's wallet, where it can be either held, spent, or exchanged into a local currency.
This is why Ripple applied for their own bank, because it's going to make these overseas bank transfers 10 times cheaper.
As blockchain wallets become more mainstream, as the Apples and the Androids and the Facebooks and all of these different apps that you use, Twitter and Telegram, all of these are going to have their individual wallets. And so you should be able to send money to anybody on the planet through any network on the planet for little to no money. That should be the future of what payments should look like. And the interoperability of it all is where Ripple, XRP, and RLUSD really shine true. Now, this is a second clip.
This is true, and that's why they got the partnership. Ripple is going to profit tons of that when they take the partnership. They've been buying a lot of these companies that do these overseas. Swift is also doing that. You know, having lower fees also means they can charge lower fees for that example.
I've played with these gentlemen here. This guy looks like some comedian that was on like TV like 20 years ago. I don't know why he looks so familiar. Who is this guy? Do you know what I'm talking about here? Am I just out here on a boat by myself, delusion? Anyway, it says the future is being built right now in the XRP Ledger. Base layer for global payments, real infrastructure, not just memes. That's a shot at Solana. Could power stablecoins like RLUSD, Chase Coin, and even JPM's token interoperability with Swift closer.
Why does everyone think that XRP ETF from BlackRock is a good thing? In terms of trading volume, it's very good. They're literally the 80% of trading volume is coming for ETFs is coming from BlackRock. It's insanely like good in terms of price value. And they will need to hold that XRP if they get ETFs. So if someone buys 3 billion XRP, they will need to hold 3 billion XRP.
I want to play this and I want to look up something with you live.
For example, let's pick the two that I don't remember whether it was Tillman or Andrew mentioned. So two of the coins that are on there are XRP and Solana. XRP and Solana and a bunch of others are vying to be the base layer to support new transaction modalities. Now, boy, does that sound. But the fact is that the way exchanges work and the way money moves when it is right now, everything is centralized exchanges. Everything is done via proprietary systems. Both XRP more in payments and Solana more in trading are vying to be part of a newer globalized infrastructure. If those things take form, Solana broadens beyond memes to trading of everything, then it's going to be worth a shit ton more than it is today.
I mean, that's the thing. Why would Solana do that? It has crazy competition with XRP. And I feel like they know that. It's very hard to build your own blockchain. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to build the next future payment ecosystem. You would literally be a billionaire. What XRP did needed 13 years. They patented it in 2011. So it literally took them 14 years of being financially sound, like 14 years of time, development, expanding, building partnerships, even more than that. Just let that sink in.
Total addressable market for providing that as a base layer is significant. The same thing with XRP with regard to payments and Swift. And if XRP underlies the stable coins that are become, if basically not just RLUSD, but if Chase Coin and JP Morgan Coin all use the XRP ledger, then it will have value. If it doesn't, it won't. And so it really becomes a question of that word that I think it was Andrew that used, which is utility. If they have utility, they will be worth more. Elsewise on the screen, and of course you could mention Ether in the same thing in terms of tokenization.
All right, let me show you this really quickly. Let's go to Perplexity and let's say how much of the Solana network transactions are meme coins. Because when you talk about Solana,
I would say it's like 90%.
The first thing that should come to your mind is, holy shit, there's a lot of scams and rugs on Solana.
Exactly, up to attributed to meme coin minting. But right now, all the eyes on our Ripple because that's where the banks and the big money is. Like meme coins right now are not as hyped as they used to be 2022, 2021. And that's a big issue because what we see now is Solana doesn't have enough utility to sustain its like pump growths compared to XRP. For a very clear reason, XRP is the number one right now.
Up to 62% of Solana's total value locked is attributed to meme coin minting and trading platforms like Pump Fund, which facilitates mass creation of exchange of tokens. Now, I will argue that Solana single-handedly has been the most deteriorating factor for the crypto market through all of these scams. Think if Solana didn't exist, they would probably go somewhere else. But since Solana makes everything so easy for people to create tokens and then just rug, that is what people have made it, that's what their job is, to go out, promote a token for a week or two, get as much liquidity as they can into it and rug it, right? That is what people's jobs are right now today. All right, and I would say at the end of this year, let's go back. We're going to look at the data of how much money has been lost in 2024 and 2025 to meme coins and on Solana. And I guarantee you the numbers will be mind.
That's why I've been calling for utility tokens, not financial advice. But yeah, there's obviously a lot of risk in crypto. It's very risky. And I really feel like XRP is trying to step away from that. Why do they never mention the banks, the crypto, XRP? XRP never mentions crypto to the banks. They only mention the technology. It's very clear that the banks don't want anything with crypto. They just want XRP's utility.
mind-boggling. We take a look around the crypto space and we wonder why our favorite cryptos haven't reached Valhalla yet. We do know that that's coming towards the end of the year here, but like, where's all the liquidity gone? Well, it's gone to a few select countries that are mass producing scams on networks like Solana, and this is what needs to stop. This is what needs to change. Meme coin launching on Solana has exploded with over 11.9 million meme tokens created since Pump Fund in early 2025. My question to you is, out of this 12 million meme coins, how many still exist? Maybe 50? Maybe 100? If you're lucky, you have a 0.0.
That's where XRP wins, because people buy it and forget it. They know it's going to be around because the company is still profitable. That's the type of thing I personally feel safe with.
1% chance of making it big on a Solana meme coin. Everybody else is losing. Yeah. Just wanted you to know that. There is some information here about State Street.
That's the thing. Like, that guy was saying on the stream that, you know, Solana could have more utility. Is Solana going to be building the same utility and building the same partnerships as XRP, and it's going to take them like at least 10 years? Exactly. Like, it cannot do the same thing. It's going to have to find another niche.
New report,
which it has. There has been some partnerships as treasuries and stuff like that, but XRP is always going to be like the one known for these fast transactions and working with banks. I feel like that's why they're called the top 3 crypto. It's not like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. It's literally Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP.
Combined the wave of explosionary fiscal policy and increasingly mixed macroeconomic signals. These breakthroughs are fueling crypto rotation or money rotation into crypto. And here is the report. This is what I was clicking on earlier. I had it's been a day. I had so many appointments today. Oh my God. Like, I've been running around, like, you know, one of those days where you just, everything is blah, and you just gotta go here 1 hour, you gotta be there the next hour. And I just had no time to do anything like that I wanted to do today, but it's all good. We are here. Why is this important for crypto assets? Mainstream capital inflows, regulatory progress like the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and spot ETF approvals and policy alignment are lowering barriers for institutional capital to enter crypto markets, not just speculative investments for long-term holdings. This is what we are hoping happens, right? Where these banks and institutions want to come in and buy XRP and Chainlink and all these things and hold for a long period of time. This is what really could explode the market even higher, going 8 to 10 trillion in the short term, and of course 100 trillion over the next 10 years. Support from fiscal policy talks about.
That's what I've been calling, guys. The market cap for XRP is bigger now. It's bigger than the other coins for that matter.
The U.S. government initial spending to accommodate monetary conditions, macro signal ambiguity with mixed signals in traditional markets, slowing GDP, inflation fears, fluctuating interest rates. Investors are rotating capital towards assets outside mainstream stocks and bonds, seeking diversification with higher returns. If you take a look at Bitcoin's average return over the last 10 years, it's 55%. This is what these institutions are looking forward to. Why is this important for XRP? ETF and retirement plan integration. Ripple and XRP stands to benefit directly as spot ETF and asset tokenization retirement plans enable broader exposure. Institutions or retail investors can allocate XRP in portfolios, including regulated investment vehicles like 401ks and ETFs. Payment and settlement utility. As regulatory clarity increases, XRP's role as a rapid, scalable settlement asset becomes more attractive to financial.
So that's why a lot of people have been buying XRP, because they know the utility is going to be there forever anyway. Like, they know the utility will stay. The utility is already set in stone. Now, Ripple has confirmed they're going to be working on different stuff.
Financial institutions shifting towards on-chain infrastructure for payments, remittances, and tokenized banking. Talks about macro hedge and appeal and network effects of adoption. Listen, guys, the main part of this is there's a lot of big financial institutions working with companies like Ripple and Chainlink and Circle, and this is going to be the next evolution of payments. The real question is, do you want to be a part of it, and how much of the new financial system do you want to own? Remember, crypto is still a very risky place where people get scammed every single day, so be careful who you're talking with and communicating out there. Never give up your seed phrase. Never trade some of these random tokens that get sent into your wallet. That could lead to...
That's the thing. That's the thing that Ripple is literally trying to change with these big institutions. It wants to change the way people perceive crypto, and a lot of people were pissed because it literally leave that way.
Extreme loss, and
it left crypto in that sense where it's super risky. It's trying to go for utility.
Don't trust anybody. Honestly, don't trust anybody in the crypto space. If somebody's messaging you to help you some way, imagine that person is a scammer right off the bat. Assume everybody is, and you will save a lot of money down the line here. I wish somebody had gone through some of this stuff when I was getting into crypto. I would have saved a lot of money too. All right, peace out, guys. Nothing in this video.
So yeah, you guys understand what's going on, but XRP holders aren't ready for the truth. So yeah, that's what we're seeing right now. XRP holders, what is the truth for XRP?
Guys are holding XRP. This is a massive update. The market, XRP specifically, is very, 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 very close to a massive move. And in this video, we are going
That's what I've been calling. October is the massive move I think is going to happen.
to be talking about it. This also does refer to literally every single crypto. Make sure, if you guys love XRP, that you guys give this video a thumbs up and stick around to the end of this video. So if we go and take a look at the charts, we could see that Bitcoin and cryptos have ended up correcting for about 2 weeks now. Bitcoin ended up pulling back 14%. That is a very significant pullback for Bitcoin that we have seen in a very long time. Typically, Bitcoin will only pull back about 10%, 10% here, 10% here.
I feel like, September is the very key point where everyone takes their XRP profits and starts selling.
Before bouncing is starting to pump up again. And for the first time in quite a long time, we've seen a pretty significant correction. But the funny thing is, it's the same exact correction if you take a look at this same exact move here. Same, almost about 13% from this move here all the way down here. So it looks like this move is repeating itself. You can see it's literally almost...
So that's what I've been warning you guys. These whales, they're making money. They're making money if you know it or not. And they're profiting off the markets right now, especially when the markets, especially if we get some type of bad news, these whales sell and buy back. That's what I've been seeing on the chain for XRP. That's what I've been doing during the lawsuit times. It might be different now.
Almost identical. You have 1, 2 dumps here, and then it bottoms for a massive move. And then you have 1 and then 2 dumps here. So it's literally the same exact fractal that is playing out. And then if this does play out, that means, guess what? Bitcoin is going to be pumping to potentially, if it just repeats this leg here, which Bitcoin and cryptos love to repeat themselves, we're going to be seeing $130-something thousand for Bitcoin. Look at this, $134,000 for Bitcoin, which if this is actually the case, XRP is going to be seeing new all-time highs in just the month of September. A lot of people are calling for a massive crash in September, and that would be kind of normal. That does kind of take place in September's, especially in the 4-year cycles at the last part of the bull market. That is pretty normal. And I would not put that opportunity behind us, or that possibility behind us. And also, I am selling bananas for just $1. The link is in my video. Support for XRP.
So yeah, it's pretty clear that XRP still holding above $2 is what doesn't really scare me at this level. But if we fall below $2, that means the whales have been selling and might have sold a large portion of their supply. Like below $2 is when I feel like 2026 might start entering this bear market until we go for another bull run.
Could see 264, somewhere in this range here. I'm going to go ahead and map it out for you guys. We could see this potential gray box here. This could be the next support. And then under that, we do have around $2. This could happen, but I'm not calling for this. If Bitcoin continues to push lower, that this could be a possibility for XRP. But the key thing here is Bitcoin is at key support. It's wiped out so much liquidity. It's wiped out so many long positions. Tons of longs have already been liquidated. We're getting very, 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 very close for a massive bounce, in my opinion. The Fed is now cutting rates. I mean, this is extremely bullish for all markets, not just crypto, but stocks are going to start going crazy. We are now entering into the fourth quarter.
Now, this really depends if it's going to pass the Crypto Clarity Act. I'm really hopeful for that because that is going to affect the prices on a massive scale. So the Clarity Act, the ETFs, it also depends how many institutions list these ETFs.
Literally, as you watch this video, we're going to be turning into the fourth quarter as September 1st starts. The fourth quarter typically is a very, very bullish time period for cryptos historically. And on top of it, we've been in summer price action for many, many months. In the summers, the price action is terrible. The volatility is insane and the volume is very, very low. So there's a lot of crazy manipulation. But after we get out of that summer price action, which we're literally starting today, essentially just a matter of hours into the fourth quarter, you're going to see a complete change in the market and how it behaves and how it...
I mean, just seeing the prices jump so much before even getting retail investors back definitely makes it very much more exciting what's going to happen in October. Because we have been seeing so many pumps without the retail investors even getting like 100% into it.
Moves in the volume. There's way more volume. A lot of the hedge funds, institutions, and big money, they do not buy or allocate or make any type of positions during summer months. They wait for the fourth quarter, typically September, October, and that's why things always go crazy around this time of year. So every single time XRP comes to this level, we do bounce. XRP, in my opinion, is setting up like this. You see how it's dumping multiple times to this key support zone. I think XRP is...
This is also the whales probably selling, you know, because when XRP went above $1, they were largely in profit. So this could be the time when they didn't sell at $3. They started, you know, maybe even the ones that bought the dip at 1.7 started selling it at like 2.3.
Somewhere in this region here, and we are getting ready for the next leg up. I do think the next leg up is definitely going to start towards the end of September or in October, but it could take place earlier as they've been dumping the market since August. We've been literally correcting since August. It's been a couple of months now, especially for XRP. If you take a look from the very top to our current level, it's been about 50 days, so that's 2 months. Typically in a bull market, altcoins will correct about 60 to 90 days, sometimes 30 to 40 days.
So yeah, 30% correction is not unheard of, from my opinion.
And then they will continue to go up again. So we are literally getting really, really close to the end of the extreme possibility of this downtrend manipulation going to be over. Now make sure you guys join my WAP. You can...
It could be like sometime in September. Who knows? I feel like sometime in September, even looking at the markets right now, you know, if you follow stock markets are down as well. Bitcoin is down. There has been some bad news, but not really to trigger a bear market yet. But he's calling for 114 Bitcoin, which would be definitely nice, and then seeing a pushback. Like he's saying that XRP will fall off in what, like after October?
Even if we are still going to crash massively in September and to go down to like 92K, which I think is a possibility for Bitcoin, obviously XRP is going to follow. I still think Bitcoin can at least squeeze up and form another lower high, potentially head and shoulders pattern, and then nuke. It needs to have liquidity to nuke it further. So after they've taken out so much liquidity on the bottom side, I am still waiting for a big, strong squeeze to wipe out all these short positions before they dump it again. That's what I'm expecting. I think Bitcoin is probably going to come up to this region here, reject, and then we could get that big nuke maybe to 92K, which would bring XRP and a bunch of other altcoins at a better discount.
That would bring it below $2. Yeah, somewhere in September is where I'm really, really worried for XRP. But I'm not worried for it long term, just short term.
For us to buy for the next and final leg of the bull market, which I think can take XRP to $4 to $5, maybe up to $7. This is my price prediction for XRP. If you guys have another price prediction, let me know your price predictions in the comments below. But if you guys are going to be trading cryptos, make sure you are doing it over on Blowfin. This is a platform where I'm long and shorting cryptos up to...
So yeah, you get the idea. Is September is obviously one of those months where we could be seeing massive corrections from people selling it. Now, this has been pretty normal in crypto. That's why I'm not too worried about it. And I also trust, you know, like if the whales are buying it back at that price point, it's definitely a bullish indicator. But right now, we have been seeing whales dumping at very high prices and potentially rebuying it back. You know, some of the whales already bought it at 2.7. So it's really a matter of time before it flips. Could be mid to late September, but nobody really knows the details. So yeah, that's just my opinion. JP Morgan just flipped the switch on XRP. So JP Morgan just went huge. We don't have much time.
And gentlemen, we have hit a crucial moment in time for all of you back at home. JP Morgan & Chase, the largest bank in all of America and the world, has started to change their tune when it comes to the world of cryptocurrency. you better pay attention, because what this means for markets is unlike anything we have ever experienced before in human history when it comes to financial markets. And yes, XRP has so much to gain at this current moment. So please hit that like button so the entire XRP army can see.
So it's pretty obvious that XRP is being talked about worldwide, guys. It's being talked by simply everyone, especially the big players, because 3.6 trillion JP Morgan says Bitcoin is undervalued versus gold. Like, if Bitcoin is store of value, then XRP is going to be the one that people hold for basically the long term, so it gets developed.
Undervalued versus gold. Now, I don't know if I need to spell this out for all of you guys back at home, but if Bitcoin is to climb to a similar market capitalization that gold is going to climb to, we're looking at nearly 10x of its current value today. And I want to remind you, the last time that Bitcoin did a 2x, XRP did a 5x. And so basically what we're looking at here is if Bitcoin does anywhere near a 10x, XRP has anywhere around 50x potential. And this is something that JP Morgan actually does.
This is true, but I feel like what will happen more is if like Bitcoin goes to for example, 200K, then XRP will just overtake Bitcoin's market cap, but it will not flip over Bitcoin like a lot of people suspect. That's going to be the hard part, because Bitcoin has been the first, and it's going to have the first, serve at the table. It's going to have the first gains, then it's going to be Ripple.
I think is a possibility within the next 5 to 10 years. And so naturally, looking to work with the cryptocurrency blockchains or invest into the cryptocurrency blockchains that are building the future financial framework is probably the go-to place. JP Morgan undoubtedly sees Bitcoin as a store of value, which is amazing considering not even a year ago, they were actively going out on interviews. The CEO of JP Morgan was going on interviews, and he was saying that Bitcoin is nothing more than a place for criminals to launder money. And dude,
I think that's also changed. Like, XRP changed people's opinions, especially all this networking. I feel like it definitely reached JP Morgan. XRP definitely saw what was coming. This technology, you cannot ignore it. Yes, crypto has a lot of risk, but the things we see right now, it's very hard to ignore.
Drug trade and stuff like that. Obviously, a much different view today from JP Morgan. And of course, all of the major banks in America are fully incentivized to start offering stablecoins and start offering crypto custodial services like exchanges do. And the reason why is they can make an unbelievable amount of money. They're going to be purchasing potentially trillions of dollars worth of U.S. treasuries, which has the U.S. government completely salivating at the mouth with their stable.
Now, JP Morgan, if they decide to buy Bitcoin or XRP, the biggest gainers are not retail, like the biggest wins, but actually, like all these banks and institutions, these are going to be the 99% of the value that we're going to see with XRP's price.
Coins offerings, and the banks are going to be able to make a ton more money offering XRP to their clients because they're going to be much like an exchange. This is the perfect storm for banks to massively increase the amount of profits that they can make. And I think overall, this is in the best interest of the average US consumer because they're going to be getting more access to cryptocurrency, and it's going to change the world for the better. This is the first step forward. But this is far from the only thing that's happening right now, which has me over the moon excited. The U.S. Department of Commerce has been coming out and making some statements relating to cryptocurrency, and they're actually currently working on fully integrating all of the U.S. economic data on chain. More on
now, this is something that they've been very vocal about. Why? Because if you have something you can buy on chain, imagine the type of volume you can get, especially if other countries start buying from XRP. This is why the U.S. government wants to get everything on chain. It's only fitting that the Commerce Department and President Donald Trump, the crypto president, publicly released economic statistical data on the blockchain. That's Department of Commerce. As a blockchain capital of the world, again, they went big on crypto.
That in a second, but first, I want to bring you guys this statement from the U.S. Department of Commerce.
So everybody has to admit 3.3% GDP growth is impressive, but imagine if they hit more than that. They need to actually go into NVIDIA path, technology path, making their own chips, which they want to do, which I feel like is going to be super expensive. So they're going to try to find any gaps to pay off the debt and raise US economy. That's the goal. And crypto is one way to do it because every single country needs crypto's technology. It doesn't need meme coins, but every single bank needs what XRP offers.
Be so excited. All of those economic reports that we get on jobs data, on GDP growth, on business cycle strength, all of that kind of stuff, it's going to be on the blockchain. Meaning
exactly,
it can't be manipulated and
But guys, this will take many years before we actually see, like, you know, the real world assets fully developed.
Falsely represented if all of this data is fully on chain. And it's going to be much more accessible for everyone and much more transparent for everyone. This is why cryptocurrency is so crucial. It's undisputable, verifiable truth. And that is the future that we're headed into, and it's never looked better for me or anyone else in this world, because corruption is a problem that I think all of us can agree exists. But crypto can solve that problem as long as it's used correctly, and this is a massive step forward in the right direction. Now, real quick, before we get into more details on JP Morgan and all of these other wonderful things that are happening, I wanted to point out to you guys that my trading indicator, Crusader Signal, has found the 2 best possible entries that...
So yeah, it's pretty clear here that the US, if US is making statements like this is a bullish scenario because we never saw this before in history of crypto. Now, XRP has a better chance with the ETFs, with the rate cuts, with everything we have seen so far than ever before. Why? Because the US has always been bearish on XRP with statements like that.
But crypto can...
And now they can finally like push through and go on an extra step. That would be amazing though. So yeah, look at this. Department of Commerce partners with Chainlink to bring government macroeconomic data on chain. I don't know why they partner with Link and not like XRP, but maybe each of these projects is going to have its own thing. I'm not too sure what's going to happen next, but it's pretty vocal. Like US has been pretty spot on that they have been calling, you know, working with US companies. So like I didn't like BlackRock work with Ethereum, and Chainlink is working with this, with the government, and XRP is working with other countries. Like literally countries, which is pretty insane.
Economic data on chain. Now, I know some of you guys might be a little bit disappointed to hear this. Why isn't it the XRPL? And the answer is actually quite simple. Chainlink is all about smart contracts, and everything that the government needs is all about smart contracts. XRP's time will come when it relates to cross-border payments, because that is the niche that XRP was built to solve. So don't be disappointed when you see another cryptocurrency, you know, fit into a solution that it was meant to solve. XRP is not built for this type of stuff, okay? XRP is built for cross-border payments, and of course for, you know,
so that's the thing in crypto. There's so much money involved that, you know, some of these will have its own thing, and then the others will have, you know, will solve its own values. So it doesn't need to be that XRP needs to own everything. There's basically enough for all these companies. And yeah, Chainlink obviously dominates the smart contracts, but XRP honestly is comparing with something much bigger. The 5th biggest company, which is what, Swift, which is trillions and trillions of transactions every single month. That's where the real money is, and they want to make it cheaper.
In instant seamless transactions as well, which of course is going to be coming soon. So this is amazing, and this is something that we definitely need to celebrate. Even if it's not necessarily XRP winning, all boats rise together. Chainlink gets more closely integrated into government smart contracts.
And I'm pretty sure that XRP and Chainlink are in some way working together anyway. So it's not that much big of a problem, in my opinion.
In macroeconomic data, XRP gets more closely integrated into cross-border payments and the banking sector. You know, banks start accumulating more of all of these different cryptocurrencies and offering these custody services to the older generations and start pitching them, etc. This is the path forward that we need for mass adoption for XRP and all other crypto.
This is just like an extra bonus, even though if XRP doesn't work with them, yeah, obviously this would boost the XRP price much, much more. But just working, like someone working with the US definitely tells me that US does find technology in this type of stuff and even payment processing.
Currencies which solve real world problems. Now, because of these this blockchain technology, the U.S. is now getting access to economic data that they've never had before. They just revised their Q2 GDP growth up to 3.3%, the best quarter since Q3 of 2023.
So yeah, this definitely tells me another bull run is coming because we did not see it like that. I feel like it was more inflated in 2021, if I remember Ben saying that. So 2021 was more inflated pump, and this one is more realistic, which is good. You know, it definitely seems like a positive indicator that October is going to have one final push before the start of the bear market.
Business is open in the United States of America. GDP growth is skyrocketing. This is an amazing sign. Once again, this greatly elevates the chance that Jerome Powell will cut rates come the next meeting. More liquidity is going to be circulating around America. More money is going to be made by businesses. And of course, less cost on debt, which I think we should all know what that means at this point in time. That means even more money flowing through.
I mean, we can pretty much all agree that, you know, rate cuts are going to happen. But I don't know if there's going to be one rate cut, if there's going to be 2 rate cuts, if there's going to be 3 rate cuts. That's the big secret. You know, we're definitely getting 1 rate cut. But I'm hoping for many, 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 many more rate cuts. Because the more the rate cuts, the more the price changes. XRP holders won't get this chance ever again. Tom Lee has been talking about XRP again. Billionaires bullish on this price cycle. We are probably not going to be seeing a price pump like this for another 4 years. I will keep you guys updated on that as well. But definitely seems like a very key moment in crypto.
Really bullish on Bitcoin. I think between now and year end, I think it's still possible to be 200,000 and
nice.
Longer term, $1 million for Bitcoin. Ethereum, I think, has more upside because and that's why we call it the biggest macro trade over the next 10, 15 years because of.
That's why XRP has an upside, like the market caps. When you think about what's easier to hit, like XRP hitting first trillion or Bitcoin hitting first 10 trillion. Much less money has to pump into XRP for it to, get into the first trillion for XRP itself. A trillion company, that's like NVIDIA, right? It's definitely possible. NVIDIA is getting lots of utility, and I feel like it's more valued right now than, of course, XRP. But XRP can definitely get to where a single company is worth, which is the most expensive company in the world right now. But maybe in a few years, maybe in 4 years.
Both Wall Street, building on the blockchain and AI as well. I think Ethereum between now and year end, so let's say Bitcoin is 2x upside from here. I think Ethereum is more than 2x upside from here. But
so does that mean like XRP is 5x upside?
Longer term, in the BitMine presentation, we pulled some work from Mosaics, and let's say it's 5-year view for Ethereum. It comes to around $60,000 per ETH.
There are a few people that have more experience investing into crypto assets and tech stocks than Tom Lee, and that's precisely why I am showing you guys this crucial video today. Because if Tom Lee is correct about Bitcoin eventually reaching $1 million per coin and Ethereum going to $60,000 per coin, the potential for XRP will also be in the hundreds to 1,000s of dollars per coin, and I do think that is something that a lot of you guys would probably benefit from quite a lot.
And I feel like the thing with Tom Lee is he really talks with a lot of billionaires. This is where Tom Lee has an advantage that we don't have. These billionaires, the reason why we watch this, they talk to XRP billionaires, they talk to millionaires, they talk to anyone in the banks, and they know way more, and they just share it on the public, and maybe 1,000 people watch it or 10,000 people. That's what's crazy to me. They're sharing to public what they think they will happen or the people they talked with, like things they don't want to know. Why? For fun.
And with that being said, Tom Lee does share a ton of important insights on how that will happen, how Bitcoin will potentially go to 200,000 before the end of this year, and what that will mean for XRP is what I'm going to be breaking down for you guys once he breaks apart all the macroeconomics from that. Because let's face it, Tom Lee doesn't have the time to focus on every single little cryptocurrency, but he is investing into tons of different ones. He just has to answer specific questions in the interviews that he is asked, and everyone's focused on Bitcoin and Ethereum right now. But that does not mean that you should also be focused on what everyone else is focusing on, because the true money is not made where everyone is piling their money right now, this moment, or focusing on right now in this moment. It is made by getting ahead of the curve before they start doing that to the next asset class, and I very strongly believe that to be XRP. We've seen XRP already outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum many times before, and I believe XRP is just starting in this bull run. So buckle down, get ready, listen very closely, because it might just change your life. Let's get into the video.
It's a Robinhood account or a Charles Schwab account, and they can buy a stock that owns in that company's treasury a crypto token. So
yeah, Tom Lee has been correct on a lot of stuff, especially like this market cycle. He has been calling for it before it even happened.
In other words, MicroStrategy is an example. Like when you buy MicroStrategy, you're basically buying Bitcoin. And that's because they are using all their excess liquidity to buy Bitcoin. Many people will say, Tom, why do we even need to own MicroStrategy when I can buy an ETF? Okay. The answer is really comes down to two simple things. Number one, the institutional equity world, when a fund manager is trying to outperform or find alpha, they are unlikely to be buying a Bitcoin ETF. So their only way to get exposure to Bitcoin is to buy infrastructure companies related to Bitcoin, but the simplest is buying MicroStrategy. And that's why MicroStrategy, in terms of Bitcoin held, is actually bigger than any Bitcoin ETF, I believe, or maybe they're second to BlackRock, but they're basically larger. But the second reason is that a properly run crypto treasury is growing your holdings of the crypto faster than an ETF, because an ETF by nature doesn't grow your ETF holdings. Your token holdings. MicroStrategy calls it levered Bitcoin. But I'll give you an example of how their math worked. When they started their crypto treasury in August 2020, MicroStrategy had $1 worth of Bitcoin per share. The stock was $13 at the time. By the time you got to July 2027, so roughly 2025, 5 years later, they had $227 of Bitcoin held per share. So they grew it by, hundreds, multiple. The price of Bitcoin.
That's what I'm telling you. The XRP whales literally bought it at 20 cents and are now buying super big amounts, guys, still at $3. But most importantly, a lot of these whales, which have bought at 15 cents per XRP, 1 cent per XRP, have actually cashed out. Now there's a new wave of XRP whales incoming, just as I've told you guys, and they have been buying on-chain analytics. They have been buying at $3. Now, why is that? I do not know, but I will keep you guys updated on that. Smash that like button.
Coin from August 2020 to July, let's say 5 years later, went from 11,000 to 118,000. So it was an 11 times return. MicroStrategy stock went from $13 to almost 400. So it went up by more than 30 times. Only 11 times was explained by the Bitcoin price increase, which means their treasury strategy, which was properly executed, had an implied benefit of a 20x on the stock price. So a really well-run crypto treasury is going to be a really high-performing stock. In fact, Michael Saylor just posted a chart, since 2020, he's outperformed every single stock of the Mag 7. He's even outperformed NVIDIA during that time frame.
Where do you see crypto in the next 6 to 12 months, looking at Bitcoin, ETH, and the rest of the market?
Yeah, so it's pretty clear right now that he's potentially indicating or at least hinting at another price hike.
I'm still really bullish on Bitcoin. I think between now and year end, I think it's still possible to be 200,000, and longer term, $1 million for Bitcoin. Ethereum, I think, has more upside because and that's why we call it the biggest macro trade over the next 10, 15 years, because of both Wall Street building on the blockchain and AI as well. So you have like sort of two cohorts actually probably deciding that it's really additive, right? Remember, the financial system is half of the economy. And in the stock market, financials are trading at a lower valuation than tech. So I think financials can re-rate in that world. But Ethereum is sort of the network.
So yeah, it seems like that while tech has grown, there's going to be more of these that are going to basically double down and going to have that real price bump we've been asking for. It's very clear here that XRP is still under tapped to a lot of these institutions.
Value beneficiary. So I think Ethereum between now and year end, let's say Bitcoin is 2x upside from here. I think Ethereum is more than 2x upside from here. But longer term, in the BitMine presentation, we pulled some work from Mosaics, and let's say it's 5-year view for Ethereum. It comes to around $60,000 per ETH.
Now, I don't think Ethereum 60,000 will happen. I also don't think XRP 1,000 will happen. This is just a theory, but I think $15, $20, it could be the new high for XRP.
A lot of upside in the next 5 years.
Didn't you say you wouldn't be surprised there's a 50-50 chance that Ethereum could flip Bitcoin
so
as network value?
That's right. So I think that there's maybe at least a 50% chance Ethereum's network value flips Bitcoin.
But RWAs, which is not getting enough credit, not getting enough discussion, isn't that how we get to 100, 200 trillion, Web3 ecosystem?
My friends that are...
Guys, I want to tell you that RWAs are awesome, but they're very early. Ripple just started with them because maybe in 10 years, they're going to grow in price. So just keep that in mind, that they might not explode until like 10, 15 years after. So yeah, they're not going to pump XRP anytime soon, in my opinion.
In the real estate industry, think there is a lot of value that's unlocked if you do tokenize, real estate RWA onto the blockchain, because you improve all elements of how you authenticate and actually conduct a real estate transaction, to how you track and record the prices, which allows you to then create more liquidity, which, as you know, in price discovery sometimes means higher prices. And of course, you would eliminate what are today's structural imbalances in real estate prices. It's a huge deal. But I would say one of the things is, to me, that's also when society sees the benefits of tokenizing, right? It actually probably reduces friction. I mean, I think it's really important, whatever future that crypto is building, that, they do think about wealth inequality. Not that it's a targeted thing, but it's important to make sure that we're not creating greater wealth inequality. And I think crypto is the opposite. Anybody can buy crypto. And I think that's why it's, to me, it's actually a democratizing wealth creation.
So yes, in summary, what we're essentially looking for are rate cuts next month in September, which is right around the corner here, of course. When that happens, basically what Tom Lee is saying is, if we get that, maybe one more rate cut in October, the end of the year, we could literally be looking at a 2x for Bitcoin, more than a 2x for Ethereum, and we all have seen what XRP has done when Bitcoin did its last 2x in price. I mean, it literally went up 5 to 6x in the same period of time. So basically, if everything happens as Tom Lee is saying, XRP has between 5 to 6x potential from today's price, which would put...
I think that's definitely possible. Like $15, $20, $25, yeah, but I don't think it's going to be happening in 2025. We have to stay realistic. I think $7, $6, $8 is possible, $10, but like $26 is going to be the price point where Ripple still needs to keep building so it can even sustain the worldwide ecosystem. That's what Ripple really needs to focus on right now, and it might take them 2 to 3 years for them to actually do this. Once they do that, wow, we could be seeing, those massive pumps we have been waiting for.
it around $15 to $18 per coin. That is something I am personally extremely excited about. And listen, along this journey from the bottom all the way to the top, I'm going to be trading XRP.
So yeah, you get a pretty clear idea of what's happening. But also, there was another thing for XRP.
And I think it just shows you that people don't operate with independence.
Be right back, guys.
They operate with a bias. They think when something bounces, it's just dumb people buying, and that prevents them from jumping on with the buy. I mean, think about Palantir and Tesla, Netflix, they were all like retail stocks. I'm not trying to be snarky, but a lot of the people say, well, American exceptionalism's over. That's why I'm buying Germany, are the people that hated every rally here. And so they're trying to now create an opportunity somewhere else. We know crypto is a generational divide, because if you did the survey with someone under age 30, it's probably like 50% own crypto. But history shows pretty clearly it's people in their 20s and 30s that are driving all future change. Credit card spending shows their investment.
The 75% doesn't matter, in other words.
Yeah, or the 75% is going to flip to 75% own crypto.
Today, Tom Lee is going to go over one of the most important phenomena that are currently happening in the world today when it comes to investment markets. And that is the trillions of dollars that's currently held by wealth managers and boomers, the older generations, which is starting slowly to be transferred over to the newer generations, the 20 to 30-year-olds that Tom Lee mentioned here. And
the thing is, a lot of this money will go from, the old stocks into crypto. And again, a lot of the younger generation will be buying XRP, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. It's very important to know that here. There could be a very big influx of basically all this generational wealth going into tech, AI, and all these stocks that we're seeing pumping.
What we're going to see is a massive amount of capital go from older asset types and classes like bonds, treasuries, and stocks into the crypto space, into tech companies, into AI, which is...
I think that's already what happened in 2021, right?
Building the future. And these trillions of dollars will absolutely explode the crypto projects that are building the future financial markets that we're all going to be operating on tomorrow or the day after that. And so this is why I think today's video is so crucial for all of you to be paying very close attention to. So listen very closely to what Tom Lee has to say here, because it's almost guaranteed to completely change everything for you. Smash that like button so everyone sees it, and let's get into the video.
Number one, just for people.
So yeah, it makes very clear sense that, that's why all these billionaires believe the technology of XRP and Ripple right now. It's exactly the price patterns we're seeing. 2023 and 2024 were huge months for XRP. And that's exactly when all of this generational wealth started to change as well.
Markets and bear markets.
Yeah. But then they should then place themselves in history. This is probably more of an early start of a bull market. This one has been particularly reviled, I think, because one, the speed of the recovery has been so fast. As you know, many people rage sold in April because they're like, look, the economist told me 60% chance of recession. That's the same as a sell rating on the stock market. And they went to cash. They couldn't redeploy it because there was no pullback.
It was too fast.
Too fast.
Is that what creates a hated rally? Yeah. That phenomenon, people don't get back in fast enough?
Yeah, and I think it just shows you that people don't operate with independence. They operate with a bias. They think when something bounces, it's just dumb people buying, and that prevents them from jumping on with the buy. I mean, think about Palantir and Tesla, Netflix, they were all like retail stocks. Like someone was telling me the first time that they tried to buy.
Isn't that exactly what's happening with XRP? Like it's a retail stock right now, and more people are buying it.
By Tesla institutionally, they had to bring in this like research firm from Oregon that wrote a report on Tesla. Okay, this is Jennison.
Yeah.
And like that was the first time that research firm ever got called to go to New York to actually meet a hedge fund.
Oh wow. Okay.
So like, all the really big churns come because someone recognizes it, and it's not often like the crowd that recognizes it. I've started off my career as a stock analyst. Okay. So imagine we have a stock okay, let's call it, XYZ, and we shot it full of holes. Like they should have been kill shots 6 times, right? Because every one of those was a kill shot for this bull market. And yet this thing.
What are the things? The inflation cycle.
Well, for COVID, number 1.
Fastest Fed hikes in history.
Yeah, and then the bullwhip chain effect was number 2. The fastest Fed hikes, the fastest inflation cycle in history, the fastest Fed hikes in history, the Trump tariff shock, and then U.S. bombing Iran's nuclear
Each of those should have produced a bear market.
Yeah, should have killed the bull market or even killed the economy.
So what does that tell you?
Just like you don't even have to know market history, just common sense. The United States is bombing an Iranian nuclear facility, therefore by the SPOOs.
Yeah, you never would have
morning. Nobody would do it.
If you asked me in January, I'd say, okay, we got a risk of a bear market.
Right.
Yeah.
And none of these things has produced a sustainable.
That's right.
We've had like bear markets, but not a secular bear market.
Yeah. So
just guys, my opinion, I feel like another bear market is starting in 2026. And that is because we saw so many price bumps. That is, potentially where 2026 could actually start because of all this spending we have right now from the government. We have to pay that back.
Say that this stock was 16 times and we shot it 6 times over 5 years, like just kill shots.
Yeah.
And it grew earnings every year.
Yeah.
We would say the PE has to go up a lot.
And it hasn't.
It's actually lower. It's a cheaper market today.
It's incredible.
So I'm going to 100% agree that AI...
We can close out. Let's do favorites. All right, go ahead.
That AI is the most important driver of the global economy. Okay. But where I think people make an inference mistake, okay, is that a theme driving the global economy has been systematic to the global economy since capitalism
was always this way.
Yeah, there's always been an industrial revolution.
Okay, fair.
And even in the 80s, the retail sector was the best group for 20 years because boomers were entering women were entering the workforce, and there was a baby boomer thing on retail stock. So that was a single theme of demographics. And like the internet boom was a singular thing of actually creating digital infrastructure. So like it's always been a story of this.
That's what we're seeing right now with XRP. It's basically becoming like a retail meme, but with actual utility back to it, just like stocks are, right? Like meme coins were without any actual backed utility, but now we're seeing like XRP being one of those first, which actually have something back to it.
Stock market. When you're in a big cycle like this, the winners are easy to identify because they have visibility, but it doesn't mean the losers are dead mat. But for now, they're kind of untouchable. This should be a good stock picking environment.
This one, the ISM manufacturing has been below 50 for 28 months.
Do you care about this?
Yeah. Why is this bullish?
Well, because remember, this is actually one where there's no one making up the answers. Like this is a survey that's sent and people respond if things are better, worse, or the same. So it doesn't have any political bias. But if they're answering it in a negative sense, that means that they're cautious. So you can take their answer at face value. Yeah.
That's what you don't want this to be like a heavily bullish reading.
Correct. You never had a cycle peak when you've had ISM below. By the way, this is the longest stretch since 1950. When you have this pervasive caution.
I guess if it really goes up, it's bad for the economy, right? Everything will crash if it goes up too much. That's what I'm scared of too.
In business, we're nowhere near a cycle. It doesn't get more unstable.
Okay.
You get a Fed that's dovish.
Okay.
Which is cutting.
You're probably going to get that.
That's what we're going to get.
If not now, but at a minimum by May.
Yeah. But then you need this third thing.
We're definitely going to get that in September, May, you call it. I hope we get at least 3 rate cuts. Or we get larger rate cuts. Who knows about that?
You need the excess spread on interest products to fall. Like today, if you're borrowing for a mortgage, it's normally only been at 160 basis points above the 10-year, or like 1.6%. So the 10-year's at 4.2. The 30-year mortgage should be 5.8.
But it's not.
But it's like 7. So there's excess spread on mortgages. But as soon as those other two things happen, I bet you that spread drops.
So this AI boom basically is what is driving this cycle forward. We have innovation happening and productivity happening at such a large scale. It's never been seen before in human history. And the reason why people are like not as bullish as they maybe would have been back in 2021 is because they don't realize just the scale of the effect of AI and how much it's going to displace society, much like the Industrial Revolution. As
I feel like 2021 was more of inflated meme coin style, where people got their grants, from the government. 2021 is like the realistic pump, where also the crash is going to be more weaker. So the dip is going to be way weaker, which is good. It's not going to be as much as before when XRP, literally crashed 70%. But also another thing is right now people, are especially realizing the potential of AI and technology. It's not just AI that's growing, it's all tech stocks.
Tom Lee was describing just a little bit ago there. The scale in which technology is advancing is picking up at light speed, and because of this, the ability for companies to be able to produce goods and services is also going to go up astronomically. The flow of money will be easier as well between all different types of businesses who are adopting this technology in this new AI age. And so, yeah, I'm of the belief that the business cycles that we previously operated on are not going to be the same moving forward as long as AI is in the picture. These are 24/7, basically just limitless productivity machines that can do jobs better than most humans can do, and the technology is only getting better. Think about that for a second. Think about the level of displacement that is causing, and think about how much more productive a business is going to be if they pay an AI tool just a few $100 a month. They save all this money on taxes, on expenses, on salaries, on work.
So yeah, we're entering a new era where productivity is huge, but also another thing that Ripple is trying to solve is basically payments. Instead of waiting a day for a payment to someone to start the work, especially for a large transfer, can take up to 3 days. They get it the next second, and this is going to save a lot of these companies like waiting a full business day to start their work, which in terms will save many, many years in just like one single day.
Leaves, all these sort of things that actually bog companies down, and now they're able to produce so much more. If you have a company to any degree, you should be leveraging this technology, because if you don't, your competition will, and they will produce more, they will produce better, and you'll be left in the dust because they can scale at a much faster rate. So
it's very obvious that, XRP is settling it to be the next big thing. So yeah, I'm definitely excited for that. You have no idea how big this will get. Kevin O'Leary final warning. I'm interested in what happens. Kevin O'Leary talking on XRP.
Look at something and say, I'm not going to buy that. I'm going to keep that money working for me. Not many people have that discipline.
So yeah, Kevin O'Leary has been very vocal, not only about Bitcoin, but also about other coins. Even XRP, he even talked about what it was, HBAR or what it was. And this is the big thing. Bitcoin, yes, it is going to be the digital gold. It is going to overtake, in my opinion, gold. But then we have Genius Act. We have XRP Clarity, XRP to move trillions. This is where XRP comes in and, overtakes the payment infrastructure, which is worth trillions of dollars every single year.
Wealthy people have that discipline. You meet them later in life, you realize when they were young and had nothing, even the ones that were employees their whole lives that are now financially free, had the discipline to say no.
So at the current moment, the cryptocurrency market and also the S&P 500 is not doing too well. We have rising interest rates on federal loans, and we also have rising interest rates on 30-year mortgage loans. Inflation is also starting to tick up.
I also own crypto now, and I own alternative assets like gold and watches. My watch collection's actually done quite well, even though there's been a correction. There's volatility, but I have some watches that have, I bought for $200,000 that are worth over $1 million today.
Yeah, but the thing with buying with watches, do they give same thing as XRP actual utility? No, they're like a luxury piece. And what's the first thing that's going to drop in price in the bear market? Obviously, it's going to be sneakers. It's going to be watches. People will still always use transfers.
So, are you still bullish on crypto as an investment?
Yeah, I am actually, but people get crypto confused with its real potential. If you believe in Bitcoin, you think it's a digital gold, and you live through the volatility. I believe in both. I believe that crypto will be the 12th sector of the S&P in some period of time because it provides productivity to all 11 other sectors. So the way I own it is I own the exchanges, My exchange in one called WonderFi up in Canada just got acquired last week or 2 weeks ago by Robinhood. I'm happy because I think Vlad, who runs Robinhood's great. And now he's got 1 million plus accounts in Canada, a market that he'd never participated in. But the point is, this is never going away. It's going to stay forever. So how do you participate? You can buy some Bitcoin, just like you can buy gold, buy it in an ETF, or actually own it yourself. You can buy the exchanges. You can use, you can buy.
That's the thing with ETFs. Like, anyone can buy it anywhere. That's why XRP, I feel like, will have a very high price potential.
Circle stock, now it's public. Circle makes USDC. You can buy USDC in an account and make 4.1% interest on it right now. So there's a lot of ways to participate. But yes, I'm here to stay. But I've grown up. I was around during the period where the crypto cowboys lived. And I survived that all. And I even testified in front of the Senate and the House and whatever else the testimonies were during the tumultuous period. Let's talk about digital payment systems, because what's about to pass first, we're days away from this happening, is the Genius Act, which is actually the Stablecoin Act. It was just passed by the Senate 48 hours ago. It's going back to the House. I actually worked on that bill 2 years ago.
So the Genius Act, this was huge news for XRP. They're finally getting the legal framework that they need to be a huge competitor in the banking industry. XRP is finally coming to a conclusion.
This Genius Act is the thing that's going to push us to $20. If this Genius Act doesn't pass, I don't see XRP pushing past, like $10. That's the issue. You have certain price points that, we need to succeed, like the lawsuit being over for XRP to reach $3, $5, And you kind of get my point. The Clarity Act is more important than anyone thinks. Even the ETFs, they're a super important thing.
With their lawsuit with the SEC, and the Genius Act is obviously going to pave the road for XRP to continue growing. In this article, we can see it states XRP set to move trillions. Banking CEO drops bombshell on Ripple's role in tokenizing finance. And it says, according to King XRP, the XRP Ledger is on the brink of a groundbreaking transformation that could unlock a staggering $196 trillion of market through the emergence of RealFi and real-world finance powered by blockchain technology. So where is this $196 trillion going to come from? If you look at the total valuation of all the banks in the world, you'll notice that it's valued at $12 trillion. JP Morgan by itself has a market cap of $800 billion, and this is not including the assets that they have under management. It's simply their valuation. They have so much more assets under their management. So if we were to consider the total valuation of all the banks, including the assets that they have under their management, we come to the number of $486 trillion.
Imagine if they even bought a small share of XRP, how much that would actually pump the price. Probably by a lot.
And XRP plans to solve a problem. The banking system has
like JP Morgan didn't Bank of America already work with XRP? Of course, not the whole XRP ledger, but each of the banks wants some part of it. Bank of America, which also has trillions in value, wants to have fast payment transfers, and the other one wants fast payment systems in Asia. So there's many things for crypto that are going to be exciting for XRP. All of these banks, this basically XRP with these partnerships is building its own reputation.
Clear problem. It is heavy in fees, and XRP only has fees that amount to a couple of pennies. Also, the banking system is very slow because they use a SWIFT platform, which can take 1 to 5 days for a wire transfer or a deposit to go through. XRP allows you to send a transfer immediately. It is instantaneous. So we have low fees, and we also have instantaneous transfers. So that's not something JP Morgan and Chase can do, or ICBC, or any of these banks.
In terms of Bitcoin allocation or crypto allocation, what is it now?
It's at about all in. We marked to market last month. It was 19.1%.
19.1%.
Yeah, I have to keep it under 20. It's a sector. So, but remember, in that is the cryptos itself, Bitcoin, the USDC, and the shares of the infrastructure companies like Circle and everything else. I've got, it was a very successful IPO, and I'm very happy with that portfolio. But if everybody that's listening to this does that, they will maintain and grow their wealth. But it's people bet. They make big bets. They think they're so damn right. They put half their net worth into one sector or one stock and they get wiped out. That's what happens.
So would your mother pick the stocks herself, or would she invest in an index fund? Or
she indexed.
She used it. So okay.
Even back then, they didn't have ETFs, but they had mutual funds that said they're the only stock in this mutual fund.
So yeah, ETFs are a way safer buy for a lot of people, even in the future. ETFs are the big thing that people want to get. And mostly XRP is not available in the USA right now, which means two things. It means the price is lower than it should be, but it also means that the price potential could be higher for XRP. Imagine if XRP was already $1,000, then it would be obviously awesome, but a lot of people couldn't be able to buy it at this point because they know they can only go down. But because XRP right now has the potential to go like $30, $40, $50, that's what gives people hope with all this good news we have incoming.
Fund it doesn't have any debt and it pays dividends, whatever. They were very rudimentary back then. They were just collections of stocks. I think she had like 28 names or something like that in the portfolio. But if you looked at them, they were really boring large cap names, but they were sectorally diverse. There wasn't 10 sectors back then. There wasn't 11, there was 10. So they didn't have real estate as a sector. So, I looked at it saying, wow, these are really boring.
Most people's primary investment asset is the house they buy. Is that
yes,
smart?
it is, but it's also the debt they own. It's a primary asset. How much debt does it have on it? It's only the equity value is the asset. So if you're buying a house that's too big and you've only put down 10% and it's 90% mortgage, what do you really own? You really own the 10% at whatever price it is. Sometimes housing goes flat for a while. It's okay, but it's not okay if it's too much house.
So at the current moment, as a first-time home buyer, it will be very difficult to not go into heavy debt. And that is because a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage will come at an interest rate of 6.72%.
That's why a lot of the younger generation is buying just XRP instead and hoping they can cash out into XRP. It totally makes sense at this point. They are not wanting to buy real estate, which has ongoing costs. Again, a lot of people are saying why, especially the older generation, say, why buy crypto? Why buy XRP? Why not just rent out an apartment? That's the issue. You don't know if you have good tenants, you have ongoing costs. Here is where XRP really wins, right? XRP will just develop the stuff for you. Again, yeah, the price might go much more down than the real estate, and obviously there's other risks, but a lot of the younger generation is willing to take that risk. It is crazy.
We have been on a rise since 2021. In 2020, it was only about 2.7%. Now, if you plan on purchasing a home, you would have to pay almost a 7% interest rate on the loan that the bank gives you.
It's not even the interest rate, it's just that real estate has gotten very expensive at this point.
Not only that, but loans coming from the Fed are now at an all-time high. We can see that in June, the federal interest rate was around 0.1%. Was very low. And then in May of last year, we reached a high of 5.33%.
This is where Jerome Powell's interest rates would cut, and a lot of people would start buying homes, spending money, which would mean that 2026 is going to be worse for crypto. So understand me, if interest rates go lower, it means more job available, means more people spend more money, which means they might not invest so much into crypto next year, but means this year pumps more.
And now it is August and we're still at 4.33%. This is very high. But here's the thing. Typically interest rates are raised when there's high inflation. Right now there is not that high inflation. At the current moment, we're sitting at an inflation rate of 2.7%. So it is kind of on an incline, but it is not that high. So we all remember back in 2021, we did have very high inflation rates. And as a result, the interest rates were increased. So essentially what the Fed does is raise interest rates to combat inflation. So you guys might be wondering, what is going to happen to XRP and the cryptocurrency market? I think we're still in the green. This is just a temporary bump. If we look at this chart over here, we can see that Bitcoin is expected to reach around $160,000 by late November. So that's about 4 months away. That's when we'll get the high.
The issue is this is not guaranteed. We don't actually know what the final price for XRP could be. Could be more than that. Could be less. It's just what expected is. It's just a prediction. They're even calling 2029 $280,000. A lot can happen in 4 years.
Bitcoin. And Bitcoin does have a tendency to influence the rest of the market. When it goes up, a lot of other altcoins do go up simply because it is getting traction from investors and more people are bullish on the cryptocurrency market. So I think XRP is going to reach $10 and potentially well beyond that by early next year. And the reason as to why I say early next year and not November is because XRP is an altcoin, and the altcoin season usually starts after Bitcoin reaches the top and then begins to go down. And when Bitcoin begins to go down, people are essentially taking their money.
I mean, the markets here are so much different than 2021, so I cannot compare them. Like, did anyone expect XRP to pump like for 2 years, 1 year straight? Nobody did. Like almost 1 year, it was only going up, while Bitcoin was going up and all other altcoins went down. This is not what the other markets were following. So you guys should know that it's very, very different right now than before. But what about Katie Wood?
XRP holders, the setup
Katie
couldn't
Wood
be
is
bigger.
a billionaire, and Katie Wood just said something huge about inflation. She speaked out, and we're going to be seeing what exactly happens next for XRP as well.
And if you've been watching Bitcoin, it's almost...
You know, it's been pretty crazy run for XRP, but for how long can it last? Let's check it out.
been a leader in terms of risk on, risk off. So I think that's what we're seeing. We are more than halfway through a 4-year cycle. We think we're still in a bull market. If we're right,
so yeah, when is the bull market gonna be over? Because XRP already was at $3. People are saying it's gonna top at $4, but a lot of these billionaires are calling for $10 XRP. Could it take another 4 years before XRP comes back and gets stronger?
inflation is going to surprise on the low side of expectations. We wouldn't be surprised to see 2 or 3 cuts. Now, if you look at an indicator called Trueflation, it's probably the broadest measure of inflation out there. It is saying inflation is down to 1.65%, well below where the Fed is hitting it at roughly the CPI's 2.8%. And
so yeah, the ETF rate cuts are going to be the big game changer. But I feel like even a bigger game changer is going to be the ETFs. So the rate cuts are going to be the number 2, the ETFs are going to be the number 1, and the Clarity Act is probably going to be the number 3 if it passes the Senate. Maybe even number 2 because it's more important for XRP than Bitcoin.
we believe
Because it allows the companies to literally buy XRP, like legally.
that the deregulation that we're seeing here in the United States is going to be very important to institutions moving into this new asset class.
Why is this important for XRP? Cathie Wood mentioned that big institutions are going into tokenization, and one of these huge players is BlackRock. So for a long time, Ripple has faced legal setbacks by the SEC. But now that that case is officially dismissed, it opens the floodgates. And XRP is getting integrated into several ETFs and is also getting incorporated into several banks for their payment system.
I think that the SEC did a very important thing
I mean, it's been pretty clear that everybody wants to use Ripple at this point.
in declaring these meme coins not securities. What they essentially were saying is, we are not going to regulate them, and it's buyer beware. And so if I have one message for those listening who are buying meme coins, buyer beware. And I think the message is loud and clear from the regulators. What we think will happen is there will be some fearsome declines in the prices of some of these meme assets. And, you know, there's nothing like losing money for people to learn. And they'll learn that the SEC and regulators are not taking responsibility for these meme coins. I'd say this new world's going to be complicated. You know, when we hear Larry...
Yeah, that's the issue right now, is meme coins are potentially just going to be a stuff of the past. They're not going to survive, in my opinion. I feel like a lot of the money from meme coins, I could be totally wrong, guys. And again, I love meme coins, but I feel like a lot of this money from meme coins is going to be converted and sent into other coins like, you know, utility coins. I feel like that already happened.
Think of BlackRock saying he wants to tokenize everything. You know it's big because it takes a lot to move the needle at BlackRock. So we're watching the tokenization movement very closely for our own purposes as well. We're looking for the winners in the digital wallet space. Most of us are not going to have many wallets. You can think about this in the same way you think about credit cards. Most of us don't have very many credit cards. So we're looking for those winners, and Bitcoin's trying to get into the game. But in terms of real utility, if you go to emerging markets...
Now that's where Bitcoin doesn't really have real utility. That's what I'm worried about. Is it is store of value, but it's not really having any utility back to it, or it can't really be developed, as people are saying. This is where XRP Ripple could really win with this SEC case being dismissed. You know, like the global adoption is underway, guys. And that's what I'm super excited for.
And I know this is not this market, but you go to emerging markets where...
like development countries will have a use for XRP due to the low prices.
Their currencies destroy purchasing power and wealth with massive devaluation. So it's really their policy leaders. They are using Bitcoin in particular, but also stable coins, which is effectively the dollar.
Very important. So XRP is getting adopted all around the world, and so is RLUSD. In just Africa, 13 countries have adopted XRP and also RLUSD. And the main reason as to why this is because of hyperinflation. Some of the countries that have adopted XRP in Africa have inflation rates that are 25% year over year. And
that's very true. And another thing that I want to say is Ripple literally partnered with countries, like governments. How many projects, especially in crypto, can do that? Not many, I can tell you. Not just with banks, but a lot of like first world, like second world developing countries have partnered with Ripple in some way. And Ripple couldn't really partner in the US because of the SEC lawsuit. I feel like a lot of these partnerships in the USA will now be finalized and can now finally be done. Like Ripple has like 5 different locations around the world. It's not just USA. I feel like that's a very big misconception when people say like USA, Ripple. It's not just that.
And also due to economic instability, it is just very hard for these countries to rely on their government. So they're transitioning to cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, but more specifically, XRP and RLUSD. And the main reason for this is because it allows for P2P transfers, so person to person. This allows them to not have their currency to get devalued and actually have a means of living.
One of the things we think is going on right now is, and Treasury Secretary Bessent today said he does not believe that we're going into a recession. We think we've been in a rolling recession.
We've been in a 3-year recession. It was pretty brutal. But now it's going to get recovered, and it's probably going to be seeing a better life. It's probably going to be seeing like a more lively potential, and the future recessions are going to be much less worse.
And that we are actually going to see some negative quarters here. And that's because the velocity of money is collapsing as people... the labor force is worried that, and we're talking about federal, state, and local, quasi-government categories like education and healthcare. There's a lot of fear around job security right now. So we see the saving rate going up. We see the velocity of money coming down. And we do think we'll see 1 or 2 negative quarters. What we believe that will do is set this administration up and the Fed up with more degrees of freedom for tax cuts and perhaps lower interest rates, or at least ending quantitative tightening. If we're right and inflation is going to surprise on the low side of expectations, we wouldn't be surprised to see 2 or 3 cuts. Now, if you look at an indicator called Trueflation, it's probably the broadest measure of inflation out there. It is saying inflation is down to 1.65%, well below where the Fed is pinning it at roughly the CPI's 2.8%. And we believe that the combination of actually food prices have started coming down, even egg prices.
So yeah, she's calling for the end of recession, basically.
Have started to collapse, as a matter of fact. Gasoline prices are coming down. We're seeing some rent prices coming down. So we think inflation is going to surprise on the low side of expectations for those reasons, and because Innovation is inherently deflationary, and our 5 innovation platforms are all driving different kinds of deflation. Good deflation, which we'll call unit growth, but deflation nonetheless. So we think the Fed is going to have many more degrees of freedom in the second half of this year.
So I feel like she's just calling the markets are more productive, which is very true. A lot of these markets are doubling down basically, and they're going for it. They really know what's going on. They're getting like more and more. Meme coins will die, XRP will survive. This is the clip I wanted to show you guys because I've been saying meme coins will not survive 2025. I could be totally wrong, and I'm hoping I'm wrong. I hope everyone survives. But again, seems like a lot of this money is exchanging.
The environment we have been in. Our view on meme coins, we're not as focused on them. We would not be putting them into our various private funds because, and I think that the combination of AI and blockchain technology is creating millions of these meme coins. We think most of them are not going to be worth very much. We think there are just going to be a few crypto assets that will gain most of the spoils in the entire ecosystem.
So Cathie Wood is a huge advocate for both Bitcoin, Ethereum, and also Solana. Now, one thing that has held her back from mentioning XRP is, of course, the overlooming SEC case. But now that is dismissed. And there's also a lot of NDAs that were signed, and as a result, powerful asset managers were not able to mention XRP. She mentioned that the majority of cryptocurrencies, specifically meme coins, are not going to last. And that is the truth.
I totally agree with that. I also feel like a lot of these NDAs are going to be revealed years later down the line, maybe 1 to 3 years later, before we even see anything at this point.
If you don't have underlying fundamentals and actual good tokenomics, you are not going to last in the cryptocurrency market. But XRP is well established, and it has all the legal framework that it needs to be a massive competitor in the cryptocurrency space.
The dollar as backstops to their purchasing power and wealth, because they've been through too many of these devaluations. So I think the real utility, if you're looking at stable coins and Bitcoin today, is in the emerging markets, really protecting consumers' purchasing power.
So yeah, on one side, I don't feel like we're gonna hit 2022 recession, but it is possible that we still enter like a bearish market. Now, how big this bearish market is, I feel like nobody knows. But that's the issue right now. We could still be entering a bad market in 2026, while like this year right now, there's no indicator that this will be bad for crypto. So yeah. This year, definitely looking good. Everything is going down. She's not focused on meme coins, which I don't feel like any billionaire is. But they are talking about utility and tech. That's what I like. I feel like another 4 years we have to wait. And again, 4 years will come by fast. And then we can actually see XRP do like a very huge rally where it has like a lot of the stuff being built. It didn't expect this type of pump in 2024.
Well.
So all things considered, Cathie Woods believes that we are destined for a super cycle. And she also believes that a lot of institutional investors are ready to jump into cryptocurrency. And this is going to have massive impacts on XRP. Because we know for a long time, a lot of big banks did not want to invest into XRP because of the SEC case that was overlooming. But there are several things that have happened in a very short span of time. We had the Genius Bill get passed. The SEC dropped their case against Ripple. And several spot ETFs get passed to the SEC for further review. And these spot XRP ETFs are very likely to go through because a new administration is heavily backing crypto and specifically XRP. Also, make sure...
I mean, utility is really the way of the game. We can see NVIDIA stocks. I don't see meme coins being like the big thing anymore for that matter. It's the problem is there's so much competition in the crypto markets. And guess what? They're going to be focusing on other stuff. They're going to be focusing on basically utility. If you can buy something with utility and something without utility, of course, you will be buying the utility itself. So yeah, very big difference for anyone involved. But we have been seeing, so much use here.
51.
Like Ripple CEO admitted they'll start using XRP once you hear this. Look at that. This is another thing that I have seen that a lot of people don't watch this, but here is Ripple payments, global payments that we are talking about, and Ripple basically going mainstream.
Day one. Literally the first company
The price of
out there that was trying to bring everybody on board. And in today's video, I'm going to give you a perspective.
Look, so they are showing where XRP is going and where it's sending from, but you can see 441,000 transactions traded in the past minute. So while I'm making this video, there's over 400,000 transactions for XRP, which definitely means that XRP can withhold some countries already. Maybe not USA, because there's going to be way more than that. But it definitely tells you here that Ripple is now in the big way of where it's going to be easier. They're simplifying everything for Ripple.
Currencies, but XRP is not here. Why isn't it here? I'm going to go over that so you guys really understand this.
Yeah, so you can buy Ripple USD. Like, I'm not going to show you guys the way, but we can see here that there has been a lot of announcements for XRP on what exactly they're developing, and he has been calling for XRP, showing his trades. He actually did go long here, if I remember correctly. XRP long isolated, and he's down 11%.
Putting in a very heavy XRP trade. I'm kind of waiting to see how this all pans out, but I am on the sidelines.
So this position size is 10K. I don't know if he actually did 10K because it's a margin.
Add more to my position right now. Currently, it is only $1,200 with eight leverage, but we're going to be increasing this significantly. I'll keep you guys updated on that, but let me know what you guys think of World Liberty token. If this goes to $1, that would be absolutely insane.
So yeah, he's pretty excited for that, but who knows? Like right now, XRP being traded that much. Just a quick thing I wanted to show you. We do have another thing here is XRP needs to do this now. Look at that.
XRP is at a critical level right now, and in this video, I want to talk about where XRP is currently trading and what it needs to do to continue its momentum to the upside. I also want to go over some brand new attacks coming at XRP. Guys, there's something pretty shocking going on right now in the background. It looks to be a coordinated FUD effort against XRP. In this video, I want to talk about that, so make sure to stick around for this whole thing. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel.
So yeah, XRP needs to do this right now for it to change. But what is this secret thing that XRP needs to change? Now, that's a big question. Personally, I feel like XRP is right on track. But a lot of these ETF listings, you know, that people have been calling for, they need time. XRP needs a lot of time to set up properly.
These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you ever need a good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange Uphold down in the description of this video. With that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. I want to start this video off and take a look at some of the FUD attacks recently coming after XRP. And I think it's so interesting that these FUD attacks seem to be coordinated. Now, Paul Barron is one of the first people to really point this out because he actually has a software that analyzes different levels of bot activity in regards to different cryptocurrencies.
That's what I told you guys. Something that actually he liked my comment when I told him that he's making a program like this, even for XRP. A lot of this volume that we're seeing is not real. So he literally designed a machine that's going to tell you if it's real or not, which is very important in crypto because people are selling a lot of these XRP transaction whales aren't real. Personally, I feel like they are the big deal because you can see these buys and sells at the same moment. But it isn't always has been about Bitcoiners exit liquidity. They know how XRP is the threat. XRP falls for the XRP PSYOP and puts their purchasing power in XRP rather than Bitcoin. Well, that's not a credit to Bitcoin.
There's a lot of FUD also coming from the Bitcoin side of the world as well. I want to play you this video recently posted by Digital Asset Investor because it's going to show you how asinine a lot of these attacks against XRP really are. These attacks don't ever come with any kind of stats. They don't ever come with any kind of metrics. They don't actually come with any kind of facts that could actually tell someone, oh yeah, this is a reason why XRP is bad. Instead, they're always emotional attacks because they are scared that XRP will replace everything Bitcoin was meant to be. If you take a look at the early white paper of what Bitcoin was for, it was to be a peer-to-peer payments technology. It was to transform the way money moved. And then ultimately,
it was basically trying to overcome the problems it has today and fix that and improve it and make it cheaper to send payments. Again, it's very expensive in some countries to send payments, like $5, which is maybe someone's daily salary. It is insane. And now they're trying to improve that. That's what Ripple is trying to do.
Bitcoin failed so badly at those things, they had to change the narrative and now call it a store of value or digital gold.
So yeah, that's the issue right now when you use Bitcoin. Again, Bitcoin is great. It's store of value because when you send a transfer, it's going to cost you like a much more than being used worldwide. And Ripple kind of like took that gap that we saw right now.
This is really hard for a lot of Bitcoiners to accept. The fact that XRP is still being used for its primary use case as a settlement token, a liquidity token, a network to settle value globally, cross borders or even intra-border, but creating uniform liquidity and instantaneous settlement between any form of value issued on the internet. These are the things that Bitcoin was really meant to do. And XRP was created to do be a better Bitcoin. And for all intents and purposes, it looks like it is in fact doing that. There didn't have to be a narrative switch for XRP. XRP stayed true to its goal of solving the Internet of Value problem. Meanwhile, Bitcoin has essentially given up on that mission and is now just being positioned as a store of value.
I feel like XRP has really rebranded itself as well. Like, well, it kept building, but a lot of people who didn't trust it started trusting it, including me, while Bitcoin had to rebrand itself.
Now, for a lot of people, especially in the Bitcoin community, I think this is a really hard thing to digest. But I want to play you this clip of Bitcoiners actually talking about this because I think you'll start to see how absurd their arguments against XRP really are when we break down exactly what they talk about in this video. So let's listen up and then talk about it.
Right, it's the same shit. They're just lying to people. They're creating this pyramid scheme and trying to dump their bags on people forever.
Yeah, and I would argue that if Bitcoin didn't exist, the government would shut something like this down.
Yeah,
this is illegal counterfeiting. I actually think that the reason that Gary Gensler hasn't gone after all of these cryptocurrencies, I mean, if he would have said a couple of years ago, "Hey, these are all unregistered,"
wasn't there like a $500 million lawsuit for XRP anyway?
Securities, we're going to go after every single one of them. I don't care if it takes the government 100 years. What would happen? Everything would go into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then maybe you have a few idiots that are like, oh, we're going to take it over and it's going to rip. But it's, I think it's a psyop. I think that there's really important people who understand that the game theory is playing out. You can't change the protocol. How do you stop the Bitcoin price from going through the roof?
Yeah.
You let people get wrecked buying shit like this.
Yes, which is why XRP is for retards, and it is retarded.
And evil
it's
people.
Causing retardation, actually, of Bitcoin adoption. Now, it's hard
Now,
to...
this battle has been, XRP versus Bitcoin. Personally, I think both serve a different use, but a lot of Bitcoiners say, XRP left it behind and abandoned it.
Right? You can't rerun these experiments. Would Bitcoin adoption be going on faster if there weren't all this market cap in XRP? Maybe, maybe not. But we can say that every retard that falls for the XRP PSYOP and puts their purchasing power in XRP rather than Bitcoin, well, that's non-accretive to Bitcoin. Although in the long run, when this thing blows up, as it inevitably will, it will trigger a stampede of people out of XRP into Bitcoin. So although it might retard Bitcoin adoption in the short run, it's likely to amplify it in the long run. This is one of those, you get into these weird scenario spaces where you realize like everything is good for Bitcoin.
I was just going to say that. And all roads lead to Bitcoin.
Yeah, you just can't avoid it.
So maybe this is a...
So as you can see there, they have a lot of...
They're not happy with XRP, but that's what I've been hearing like really 10 years. So it doesn't frustrate me that much, but I've been hearing this since XRP launched 2016. And I also feel like the more coins there are in this space, the more people, it doesn't necessarily mean they will buy Bitcoin. Like the people that are buying XRP right now, they're buying XRP for a reason because of the utility. They might not even know about crypto, but they want to get into the XRP hype wave of the payment transfers.
Negative things to say about XRP, but nothing actually is substantial. And what you'll notice is their arguments always come to one thing. It's, oh, this is taking attention away from Bitcoin. Oh, we need the government to get rid of these things. Oh, we need these things illegal. But they don't actually have any reason for why that should be the case. It's always an emotional argument about why XRP shouldn't exist. But at the end of the day, it's existing and continuing to succeed because it is doing things that Bitcoin can't do. And this is one of the things that these people struggle with so much. It's not that XRP shouldn't exist and it's repetitive and it's doing all the same thing Bitcoin's doing. No, in fact, it's doing a lot of things that Bitcoin can't do and might never be able to do. And because of that, the usefulness of the blockchain technology to these financial institutions, that is going to cause financial institutions and other players in the market to gravitate towards protocols that can solve their problems, and they're not going to care if it's XRP or Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency network. They just want their problem solved, and if Bitcoin can't solve those problems, the money's going to go elsewhere. This is the thing these people can't wrap their head around. They're so emotionally tied to Bitcoin, they can't see the obvious fact that Bitcoin...
Like, if there was only Bitcoin, I don't even think it would grow to 120K, because that's when a lot of people buy Bitcoin, they buy other cryptos as well, which have their own risk. But it's like an ecosystem, you know? Like, if you only have one plant, it's not going to survive. But if you have like 20 other plants or 20 other animals, it's a little ecosystem. Like a relationship of sorts.
Bitcoin simply can't solve some of these problems. There's no tokenization. There's no market making. There's a lack of a lot of very important feature sets that the Bitcoin chain simply will never be.
If Bitcoin is like launching a video game in alpha, then XRP is like doing a beta launch. So like developing it and until you make a final product.
Be able to support. And because of that, financial institutions and people are finding use cases in other protocols. And it's not that hard to understand why that is happening. It's actually painfully obvious. But these people have to look for other crazy things to try to essentially discredit these other networks. They talk about how XRP is being dumped on retail. Well, what do you think happens when Bitcoin miners sell Bitcoin? What do you think happens when Bitcoiners in the very early days choose to take profits? They sell Bitcoin. Just like the same exact thing happens with XRP, where XRP gets sold. It's an open, free market. People are going to buy and sell these assets. But
to be fair, I think the same will happen with XRP. Some people might sell it. Like, might sell a fair amount, and that's completely fine, right? We kind of have to expect that. Some of the XRP got sold already.
This constant, I guess, coordinated FUD attempt to try to make all of this seem like it makes XRP useless or there's no need for XRP. The market completely disagrees. What we're seeing is more and more...
I feel like the market will really tell its value. If something is bad, the market will respond. If a whale thinks something is really bad, he will sell all the XRP. So why are whales still buying at $3? Why do you have like whales bumping it with $1-2 million buys when at $3, right? It makes total sense. Same with Bitcoin.
More people are gravitating towards XRP because the things it can do that Bitcoin will never be able to. And you just always need to understand that the reason why these people are throwing so much shade at XRP is not because there's any technical reason or any facts that you should be worried about or stuff like that. No, it's actually because XRP has become so successful and is gaining so much adoption that now they're worried that it will one day become what Bitcoin was meant to be from the start. That is why these people are so terrified. They know there's nothing they can say that's actually going to discredit or disprove XRP's usefulness. The only thing they can do is try to scare people and FUD people with things that don't matter. With that said, though, I want to move into the XRP price chart.
It kind of makes total sense. Like, we have been seeing this for 10 years, and when you see it for like the 5th year, people calling the same, it is not that threatening anymore. And a lot of these people who hated XRP started to understand its value.
Now it's acting like a long-term support, and we're seeing XRP really playing with this line right now. Now, if we're to draw another line on top of this, we can see XRP is also stuck under a descending resistance. So we've got this support here at the $2.80 mark, and we have this resistance coming down. This looks like we'll probably have a break out of this current trading zone at some time in September. Now, coincidentally, I also think that's when you're going to start to see a lot of these XRP ETFs get over the finish line. So I think those are going to provide a very positive catalyst for XRP ultimately to break to the
Now, this ETF is going to be a game changer for XRP. That's what's really pushing XRP to higher prices.
upside. But it looks like we've got a little bit more chop left in this range, and we really want to see this $2.80 mark hold so XRP can sustain itself above the previous all-time high. If we just zoom out here and take a quick look at a weekly chart or a monthly chart, we can see that right now XRP is trading perfectly at that 2017, 2018 all-time high. So what we really want to see is XRP to stay above here, which means holding that $2.80 mark.
Now, the issue is it already dropped below $2.80 mark, and it invalidated my theory. So what we're going to see next is I'm just going to say if it drops anywhere below $2, we are entering a full-blown bear market. And anything above that is just a healthy range, really, until XRP bounces back up. That's my personal opinion. We could be seeing like even maybe just slightly below $2. I feel like a 30% push is not that bad as we are entering this accumulation stage for a lot of these whales.
We just outlined. So that's going to be a pretty critical spot for XRP to hold. If it does so, I think that's going to be extremely bullish for what's yet to come. And I think we have a lot of positive catalysts also pulling XRP in that upwards direction. It's just,
I mean, as long as the whales keep that momentum, it should be safe from there, right?
The XRP,
they will hate when XRP does this. So look at this. XRP is now battle tested. Don't lose focus on Ripple's bedrock in the new financial system. It still will take maybe 1 to 3 years for XRP to fully go mainstream, basically being on the technological companies, but it is a nice start in that way for where it's going right now.
Jazzy Cooper, in my opinion, is going to be that new, younger version of David Schwartz. I've listened to this girl talk a lot. She is extremely intelligent and, in my opinion, really understands where the XRP ledger needs to go over the long run. It's one thing to have a really smart dev who sees the entire cryptocurrency space and is really deep in all the innovation and all of that stuff. But if you don't see the bigger picture of how financial institutions are actually going to interact with this technology, it doesn't really matter. I talk about this all the time.
You got to realize that a lot of people still don't understand what XRP actually does. And it's basically trying to become the new payment system. And it's trying to actually get away from crypto. A lot of banks don't want to do anything with crypto. That's why it's trying to become the technology center for a lot of these projects.
On the channel, I can build the best blockchain tomorrow, something faster, better, cheaper than every other blockchain out there. Can I actually build that tomorrow? No, of course not. But say I did. Would that suddenly mean that every single institution that's working with Ripple is going to come over and work with my blockchain? Absolutely not. In fact, I probably couldn't get any of them to. And
the thing is, you need to build these partnerships like for 3 to 5 years, at least 3 to 5 years. A lot of these partnerships that Ripple has nowadays. And again, if you get one big key partnership, then you can have the others as well.
Simple fact of the matter is my chain isn't battle tested. I don't have anyone who's going to help them onboard. I don't have the capabilities to devote tech resources to building out solutions they're actually going to use. All of these things are huge problems. And it's one of the things that Ripple has been solving for the past decade. But I want you to listen to Jazzy Cooper actually talk about this because I think it's really going to help you understand Ripple's in a much different spot than the rest of the...
The thing is, even if you build the same product as Ripple, you can't even have the same type of partnerships yet.
Chains launching, I think that's a short way to put it. How do you kind of see XRPL differentiating itself from kind of the pack and all of these different ones that are coming in and out and everything in between?
Yeah. Honestly, I've been excited by the news of a number of different L1s purpose-built, for payments and institutional finance. I think, XRPL was arguably the first blockchain purpose-built for payments over a decade ago, as I mentioned, and seeing others come on the scene is only validating of, hey, we're all working on the right use cases. We're all in it together in terms of this industry and, creating an opportunity for blockchain, which is superior technology to the traditional legacy financial rails to truly, take place and start to support these use cases. And so, I see us all as, one team in a way, in terms of, disrupting some of the old technology that just isn't meeting the needs of institutions and their customers. In terms of XRP,
it's super expensive nowadays to have any type of technology anyway for XRP.
differentiating. It's battle tested. We've been doing on-chain payments for a decade. The network is highly reliable. It's durable. Has not had a hack. Is still operating at the highest levels of efficiency from a cost.
So yeah, they've been already doing it for 1 decade. Who knows what will happen next, right? When will it finally go live? I feel like they're trying to basically build it for worldwide adoption.
And speed standpoint. And then in terms of use cases, I mean, it's a privilege to have our customers right next door in terms of building payments infrastructure for our payments team, building general blockchain infrastructure for our stablecoin, for our custody team, and now for Hidden Road. So I think bringing all of these pieces together to be able to offer a true, one Ripple solution to real problems in the market, is really what sets us apart from.
So there's a key thing that I don't think enough other projects are focused on that really differentiates Ripple and the XRP Ledger. It's not just about the XRP Ledger being great. It's about bringing actual application to the XRP Ledger. Look at some of the other great blockchains out there, things like Solana. Solana is a great technical blockchain. Like, it goes down a lot. Yes, I understand that. That's a problem. But like, look at what it's being used for. There's not a lot of real use cases being used by the Solana.
That's what I feel like a big problem in crypto is. There's a lot of these projects that they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's happening. And suddenly they got a large influx, of new holders. And they didn't know what to do with it. So they fell down. They crashed.
On a blockchain. And the reason for that ultimately is just because there wasn't ever an application really put in front of that chain in the same way Ripple has put the XRP Ledger in front of actual real world problems. Moving money, settling value, in front of Hidden Road, in front of people like Rail. What Ripple is doing is actually...
That's what the banks notice, actual technology that they cannot ignore. And they saw that actual technology that Ripple is offering.
Putting use cases to work with the XRP Ledger, giving XRP defined utility in solving real-world problems and being impactful to businesses. This is something that is so much more important than many people understand. It's been one of the biggest problems with the blockchain industry. There's all this great tech, but it's super complex and really hard to use. And if you don't have someone actually...
And the issue is a lot of this technology that was built like maybe 2018, it's outdated now already. Because the technology is advancing so fast, it's a competitive sector. You really don't have anything to offer like XRP. That's why some of these crypto projects from 2018 cannot follow the same path as XRP, because XRP kept developing even when they were not profitable. A lot of these projects could only handle now 10 transactions a second, while Ripple can, or 15 transactions a minute, while Ripple can hold 15,000. No joke. And are much cheaper as well.
Building these solutions and being crypto native who understands the problem
because XRP kept developing,
fix it, you ultimately end up with a technology that's just...
When do you think we will see the utility from Gemini XRP card? So I just saw this now. Gemini XRP card is just a way, like they sell it through Gemini, I'm guessing. I didn't really check it out, but people will just use it, as same as any other cards.
Is not being utilized because there's not enough people who understand the application and how to implement the technology to solve the problems to get mass adoption. Ripple's strategy has...
So XRP is the foot in the front door to the technology. Different way to look at it. Exactly. XRP is the main point to technology. It's not like another coin. That's why I kind of like it more than the others, really, because it's just not the same thing. What do you think would have happened if everyone that bought Bitcoin held it and never sold? It would be worth a lot more, but it would probably worth like 20 million. But if you can't sell it, there's no point. No, I don't think many people would buy it. So maybe it would be worth, who knows? Maybe it would be stopped at 100K, right? Because you can never sell it.
Has always been the correct strategy. Go to the biggest institutional players on earth, work with them to incorporate the technology, and then you have a network effect that trickles down to everyone else using that tech stack. In my opinion, this is 100% over the money. And it's something that a lot of people have just really completely missed out on. They look at Ripple as some bad player. They look at Ripple as some evil person. But at the end of the day, Ripple is one of the only people who is actually doing things right. Everyone else just expects all these different things to just show up on the chain. And BlackRock is just going to say, you know what, we'll just go do this. We'll use our own devs to go build this out. No, they're going to want a partner to help them build these things and integrate in the ways they want to integrate. And that's what the XRP Ledger.
They're not going to like stop at any point. They already have like a fixed plan on what to do, and the banks will work it. They don't need, like, the XRP's utility is probably going to be to facilitate these transactions by Burns.
Has been doing. It's battle tested, like Jazzy said. And on top of all of that, it's one of the few cryptocurrencies in the entire market that, in my opinion, is built correctly. Now, I want to talk about exactly what that means in terms of built correctly, because I also think it causes a lot of FUD to come to XRP as well. Andrew Zell tweeted out earlier today, and I think it's really interesting.
One truly removed the middleman except for XLM. That's true. Like, that's why they're applying for their own bank. They want to like automate everything. Just like, you know, we see nowadays, like the bank, it's really going to be automated in that way.
He said XRP is the most hated because it's the only one that truly removes all middlemen. There are no miners, no stakers to earn rewards in the middle. Miners and stakers represent friction whether people are like it or not. This is why they can't stand XRP. And I think this is such an interesting point. When you take a look at the rest of the cryptocurrencies out there, despite the fact that it is negative for their long-term security, they have these different models to incentivize different people to be there. Miners, stakers, all these different people who essentially seek rent on the platform. This is a huge issue, in my opinion, that Ripple has really been ahead of since the beginning. When it comes to the Bitcoin blockchain, miners are essentially providing the security of the chain itself. But those miners...
The issue is like the electricity cost, you know, just same, like Ripple had to do the same thing really when they had to sell XRP for the lawsuits.
Miners are only there because they're being rewarded to be there. Right now, we see a lot of miners choosing to essentially move their hash power to data centers and AI because it's a more profitable endeavor than mining Bitcoin. In Ethereum, you essentially have a situation where BlackRock is going to release an Ethereum ETF and all these other institutions, and they're going to amass huge amounts of Ethereum that give them the power over the Ethereum chain. And that's the huge problem right now with how some of these networks were built. They were essentially built with the idea of let's just make everyone a whole bunch of money through these different reward mechanisms. But when you actually analyze how these reward mechanisms work, it creates a lot of long-term problems and frictions for the chain.
I think that's what Ripple really wants to solve. The banks pay that. The banks pay the employees, right? The banks pay like extra Ripple's ongoing cost, and everybody wins, which in the terms is what Swift is doing right now. So they're just trying to take the market share. While Bitcoin, you need to get more buyers in. Nobody's going to pay for that except the miners and the fees. It makes total sense.
Talk about it. But it's really important to understand that there's really not a player out there that understands this industry at a deeper level than the people at Ripple. If you take a look at how Ripple has made their moves, they've been calculated and extremely intelligent. While the rest of the cryptocurrency industry goes right, Ripple goes left. And in my opinion, that has been one of the best things Ripple has been able to do since the beginning.
And a lot of people have called out XRP. Oh, you joined the banks. You should never have joined the banks for crypto. And XRP completely distanced itself from cryptocurrency except the XRP coin. Ripple has nothing to do except XRP, the technology, and that's what the banks love.
This is going to play into the price of XRP. Well, let's take a look at something, guys, that I think is going to be a huge catalyst for the entire cryptocurrency industry. Take a look at the amount of ETFs right now. Crypto ETFs that are slated to go live at some point this year.
So yeah, I feel like a lot of these will be for the XRP ETF as well.
Guys, there are a ton of XRP ones on this list, as you could likely imagine. XRP.
Now, the issue I have with this, no BlackRock, but I'm still very happy. You know, whatever XRP ETFs we have, it's still a major potential.
XRP. A bunch of XRP. We got Solana, we got Litecoin. There's a whole bunch of XRP ETFs that aren't even shown here. I think there's a total of 18. Ethereum. So many different ETFs are about to hit the public markets.
This is just the new wave of people coming in, like a new wave of potential buyers, which is the big news. It's all XRP here. That's why I was calling October is so big. October, November. Guys, this is what I've been telling you. So yeah, if you want, pause the video and watch it again.
Currency IPOs. Right now, we're kind of in the calm before the storm. Everything is getting ready to gear up big time. Big money is on the sidelines ready to deploy, and we are about to have one of the biggest crypto marketing events for the largest money on earth the world has ever seen. Guys, hold on tight. Things are getting very exciting. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you...
So yeah, it's very clear that the ETFs are going to be another potential market pump for XRP. Guys, if you want more content like this, smash that like button. I'll keep you guys updated with more news. Love you all. I've been streaming for almost 3 hours now, and I'm going to take a rest. But if you want more videos, again, I really appreciate you coming today. As you can see, I'm about to pass out if I don't stop streaming. So yeah, see you guys tomorrow or in a few days, and love you all. Peace. Really appreciate it.